don't need you.
You didn't sacrifice a goddamn thing. And I'll bet you 10 to 1 you're not even vaccinated anyway.
Evil, Irish.
Oh, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. You're not vaccinated.
Now you're telling the truth.
I want a blood sample to see if he's vaccinated. I'll guarantee you he isn't.
You keep smirking, but you will be held accountable.
Back to Trudeau. We don't need you here.
Does voluntary mean you're given a choice of hefty fines, or you volunteer yourself
County of
up?
Essex took over administration of the Isolation and Recovery Center from the city of Windsor. And I am delighted to announce that our federal government is stepping up once again. This time with $4.2 million in funding to extend the operation of the Isolation and Recovery Center until March 31st, 2023.
More money?
Federal funding to $28 million.
Where are they getting the money? Where are they getting the money?
What about what we want?
I now turn the microphone
Drill,
over to
The county of Essex never voted. Who voted for this? Nobody
Thank you,
voted.
everybody, for coming today. We're going to have to cut this short because
The truth hurts. The truth hurts. You don't like the truth. Truth hurts. You don't like facts.
Taxpayers don't want this.
Nobody wants this. Follow the science. You guys are following the science, for Christ's sake.
there's a press release. The federal government has sent out a press release. If you want the information, it is posted online.
Hey, Gary, there's a municipal election this fall.
Thank you very much for
You
coming.
work for us.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye, Rick.
And wipe the shit
Thank you
off
very
your
much for coming
nose.
today.
You will all be expunged from your positions. You'll be replaced by good
The
humans.
media, you guys, I know you have a job to do, and you do it well. You're invited inside. They're strong so people can hear what the news and the announcement is.
Yeah, the
Thank you,
paid off
everybody, for
media.
coming today and exercising your democratic right.
That guy will get let in.
Fire up the fucking liberal ass as it is. Trudeau pops and the fucking CDC pops up.
Gary, don't forget this
$2.0
election.
billion fucking dollars going in their pocket.
The media is full of shit too. And getting paid by the government.
There you have it. It's just a release that
That was the scene in the town of Tecumseh at the municipal offices there through the day today, with over 100 freedom fighters showing up. That, I think, folks, captures the mood in the country, not just in the town of Tecumseh, which is part of Windsor Essex. That's where this newest Trudeau government-funded isolation center is going to be operating. What does it really look like? Well, there is, as that politician told us, a government news release that has been posted online, and there is some media attention being focused on this. We can give you some facts, government facts. These are the government stats and the government released information on it. I'll bring this up for you on the screen. $4.2 million announced today to establish this 50-room facility in the county of Essex. This is really aimed, according to the government, at foreign temporary farm workers to carry a program forward until March 31st of 2023. The government has had some challenges, and farmers some challenges with foreign or seasonal migrant workers who come in to work on the farms, dealing with infections, as I guess as they see it, and finding a safe way to house them while they're sick. These workers are generally housed in large buildings and together, sort of bunkhouses quite often on farms. So this is all being done through, and so this gives this provides a different way to house people when they become ill with COVID. So that's their approach. What we've seen happen though since 2020, when the pandemic first began and all these government measures began to fall into place, is we've seen the governments, the local governments, using these programs to also house homeless people, and lots of them. A lot of homeless people. So they've used this money not just for migrant farm workers, but also for the homeless. $4.2 million here locally. I believe the total across the country is over $28 million being spent. Now, that's really just the tip of the iceberg. There's all kinds of cash flowing, and there has been a lot of cash flowing from the beginning of the pandemic through this Safe Voluntary Isolation Sites Program, SVISP. So far, the government has spent over $181 million over the past 3 years. All of that money pushed into municipalities in Nova Scotia, Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, British Columbia, Yukon, and the Northwest Territories. It has been used to open 63 sites in 50 different communities since, about March, April of 2020. $181 million used to provide service in these facilities to over 20,000 people. It's a lot of money. This is not new because this program has been in place. They've been using it in these facilities all along. But a lot of people, as you saw, are fed up. Fed up because they're wondering if it's money that should even be spent. How effective have these programs been? How effective have they been at stopping the spread of anything? And they say they're voluntary, but as we've seen with a lot of government measures, when they use the word voluntary, there are strings attached. They try to entice you or encourage you by dangling a carrot in front of your nose for a while. Free ice cream for kids to get a thing in the shoulder. But then they turn around and say, if you don't get this thing, you don't have a job, or you can't get on a plane or a train or a bus. We're not going to let you support your family. You don't get a thing in the shoulder, you don't get a heart transplant. That's their idea of voluntary. You have a choice. If you don't have to get the thing in the shoulder. It's your choice. But if you don't, well, we'll just let you die because we're not going to give you that heart transplant. That's an actual policy. I don't know if that's humane or even ethical. I'm quite certain it isn't, actually. But that's where we're at in Canada in 2022. And I know there have been similar situations in some places in the United States. In the US, though, there are more legal tools available to the citizens to combat that kind of tyrannical policy. Totalitarian, that's the word that's being thrown around today. And while the government is calling these isolation facilities or isolation centers, the phrase that keeps rising to the surface, whether it's justified or it isn't, but the phrase that keeps rising to the surface tonight in this country is concentration camp or camps. People are afraid. They're afraid of their government. They're afraid of their politicians, the people who are supposed to represent them and look out for them, work for them, work in their best interests. And yet tonight in Canada, people are afraid. Afraid of the people that tax us, afraid of the people that we pay. Why? Because of the behavior of politicians and bureaucrats over the past nearly 3 years in this country. Because of the divisive rhetoric that's come out of the mouth of Justin Trudeau. Who do we blame? Who should we blame for the fear? It goes right to the Prime Minister's office. And the premiers of every province share in that blame as well. Because all through this, they've allowed this to happen. They've done this to the people. And yet today, even as we saw the crowd express their displeasure, their frustration, and their outright anger, like good Canadians, like the good Canadians and the good citizens and patriotic, loving Canadians that they are, they were peaceful. Loud, boisterous, yes, but peaceful. Surprisingly so, especially at this point in time, I would say. Canadians have shown incredible restraint and incredible patience. Amazing patience. But it's wearing very, very, very thin. And the politicians are on thin ice. Today you saw that. Tensions are running high. The blood is boiling. And the politicians need to take note. And yet, as I sat there today and watched this unfold, what did I see? Exactly what the people saw. I saw politicians standing up there with these fake grins, smiling through their teeth at the crowd, nervous, maybe even a little afraid themselves, but not listening. Well, we're just going to have to cut this a little bit short today. If you want to get the information, you can go online. We put a news release up there. You can check it out up there. And all you media people, come on in here. We'll talk to you because they're unruly. Yeah, of course they are. They're fed up with you. No empathy. These politicians didn't miss a paycheck, but a lot of small business owners did and have. Some of them lost everything. Some people lost their homes. A lot of people have been marginalized, beaten into a state of submission by uncaring, out-of-touch politicians and bureaucrats who seem to think they're above the people. They've lost sight of the fact that they are there to serve us, serve the country, serve our communities. They're servants. But there was no attempt made there today to actually reach out to the people standing right in front of them. The mayor of Lakeshore standing actually in the crowd. You heard what Freedom Stephen had to say to him, and no response. Just stood there and kind of grinned. Not a word. Stone deaf, oblivious, or just simply they don't care. Why? $4.2 million might have something to do with it. Not saying that that $4.2 million goes straight into the pockets of any particular politician, but when the federal government funnels another $4.2 million into the municipal coffers, it eases the burden on the municipal budget. And those local politicians then get to free up money elsewhere. This money is being used in a variety of ways. As I said, if you go back and look over the past 2+ years, you'll find stories about how these kinds of facilities have been operating in municipalities across the country. $181 million. $181 million. I'm going to say that again. $181 million from the federal government to municipalities. Are you starting to get the picture? Where does that money go? Well, it goes into facilities. They're using existing infrastructure. They're using hotels, funneling money into hotels to turn those into quarantine or isolation centers. Which hotels do they pick? Well, when you're a politician and your buddy has this, or your supporters over there who supported you in the last election have that facility, make no mistake, folks, that's the way the system works. Who's got the cash? And you know who generally gets the cash? The people who already have the cash. The rich people in any given community. They kind of make things roll, right? I could give you very specific examples in the communities that I've lived in, including the one that I live in now. I'd have to be very careful about what I say and how I say it so that I don't get my butt sued, but I know how it works. And working as a journalist as long as I have, I've seen it. I know what is going on. I know what has gone on, what continues to go on, and the money has been flowing like Niagara frickin' Falls. Again, this money, this 4.2 million, might not go directly into the pockets of a politician, but it eases the burden on the municipal budget. Every municipality has problems dealing with homeless people, people with mental health issues, drug addiction, migrant farm workers. Where do you house them? What do you do with them when they come into your community? And we've seen huge spikes in homelessness, unemployment, drug abuse. Why? They don't tell you this, but it's because of the government measures over the past 3 freaking years. They locked people down. They made people isolate. They kept us all apart. Of course, people got depressed. Of course, they turned to drugs and alcohol because they were living a freaking nightmare. Lost their jobs, lost everything. Look at the story that we heard just yesterday from that incredible freedom fighter that we had on here about ending up he was lying in a snowbank after losing everything, ready to die, and got a phone call at the last moment when he was literally hanging from a thread from an old girlfriend who literally saved his life. That's what's been going on in this country for 3 years. What's the government solution? This kind of crap. I understand why the people are down there and upset. you know what? It was really hard to really get even the details, the real details from the politicians as to what they're really going to be doing. I know now because I'm seeing the release and I get the information written, but they were shouted down. And I can understand why. Because nothing that's been coming out of their mouths has been really quite truthful, has it? It's been some truth and then some misinformation, if you want to call it that. There's a word for you. Or is it disinformation or malinformation? Whatever it is, they're just not telling us the whole story. $181 million, that tells a heck of a story. Where has all that money gone? Who got it? Why? Who profited? 4.2 million will help them deal with this issue of not just the thing in the air, COVID. It won't just help them with that. It will help them deal with their homeless issue, drug addicts, other people. And then you better ask yourself this, and this is the sinister part. Is it really smart to take people who are sick and put them all in one building together? I guess maybe you don't have a choice, but these isolation facilities, as I understand it as well, well, let me put it to you this way. Remember back at the beginning of the pandemic and the governor, Cuomo, in New York? Trump gave him hospital ships and he didn't use them. Instead, he sent the sick into nursing homes. I've covered a lot of outbreaks of viruses and illnesses over the years at nursing homes prior to the whole COVID thing. You know what you do when that happens? You lock the place down. Nobody gets in, nobody gets out. And you isolate that particular facility. And you don't want anybody to get in who might be infected with anything. You don't want anything to get into a nursing home. They are the most vulnerable, so you protect them. You prevent anything from getting in. And yet he sent the sick into the nursing homes. What are these isolation facilities all about? You're going to take people who have been living on the street, who are stressed out to begin with, drug addicts, because that's what they've been doing. People living on the street, drug addicts, people with mental health issues, migrant farm workers, people who are under a lot of physical and mental stress as it is, and you're putting them all together. What do you think you're going to get? Is it to mitigate the spread, or is it an incubator? I have not been in favor of anything the government has done from day one. In my opinion, for what it's worth, they've made everything worse every step of the way. And what has it cost us? A lot. And I'm not talking about money. We could talk about money, but it's cost us so much more. Families divided, lost friends, communities turned upside down. The country in turmoil. These guys don't know what they're doing. Or maybe they do. And if they do, they're sick. Sick. I have 2 freedom fighters lined up for you. Local freedom fighters from Windsor, Essex. They were there today. They're going to join me when we come back. They're going to share their stories, their perspective on all of this. What they have to say, again, is a reflection, I think, of what the mood is in Canada tonight, what the mood is even in parts of the United States, maybe across the US as well, but especially in Canada. This prime minister of ours, this tyrant, this out of touch, spoiled, rotten little brat, he just does not get it. Don't go away. You are going to want to see this. These guys are great, and they will share with you, I think, what you're feeling already. But together, we will find strength.
Hello, world. Are you awake? Uniting humankind by liberating millions of minds at a time. Maverick News. The world is watching.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We have a couple of great freedom fighters with us this afternoon, well, this evening. Can you introduce yourselves, first of all, to the Maverick family?
I'm Bob. I'm Neil.
And you guys are down there in Tecumseh today. Can you
We're
just
down here today? Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen some footage from down there, but give us your sense of what went on. The people were not happy.
Definitely not. No, they weren't. There was a lot of anger, and there was a lot of pent up frustration that just seemed to boil over at the mere mention. Like as soon as they started talking, they just yeah, everyone could tell that they were just spewing BS, and they just reacted because there's a lot of anger around, like in the UV community, and you know, there's like a lot of people that can't cross the border to go see their families. There's a lot of people that lost opportunities with employment and, you know, economical reasons, and there's a lot of people that have been ostracized by their families, and then they got to go and listen to this guy talk about this new facility that they're building like it's a great thing and it's well spent money when it's not. So yeah, they just came out, and I mean, the first thing was when they introduced him, everybody just started booing, and just went from there.
And there is a lot of money flowing here, a lot.
Absolutely. And
what's your assessment of that? Is there something more going on here than they're telling us, do you think?
What do you think, Neil?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so too. One thing that was interesting was that they said it was for a voluntary isolation facility, but then when we got there, That's when they mentioned that it was for migrant workers. I don't understand why that wasn't included in the initial press release or announcement. I was kind of blindsided by that, and I don't think they were. I don't think that they were expecting that many people to show up. I think they were just waiting. They wrote a speech, they were going to say it, and then ask a couple questions. Bing bang boom. But no, that's not how it happened at all. So I think maybe, I don't know, I'm just speculating, but maybe it was added to the to the to the prepared speech after they realized that there was a bunch of angry people outside.
Well, I went back and I looked at some old articles online, and you can see that they've been operating facilities sort of like this, and sometimes in hotels or public buildings since the beginning of the pandemic, like March 2020 into 2021. And it looks like in a lot of municipalities there's a lot of money being injected into municipal government. So there's federal money flowing right down in at the local level,
Right.
and it looks like they're using this money not just for isolating people for the purposes of this thing in the air,
Right.
that they're worried about people spreading around. It's
Maybe
it's like backing up or pumping up budgets for like homeless shelters and the organizations that are involved in that. And I kind of wonder where some of the other money might be going as well. It looks like in the end, when the money finally comes in at the municipal level, it's not really just being used for this one purpose. It's kind of getting thrown around a bit. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do, actually. And if there was ever a case where there was corruption, the people that were in the positions of power would have to be the ones that need to have their palms greased, to basically let the higher ups, like the federal government, operate with or let them roll out their agenda unhindered. So I don't know. I'm just speculating, but that could be what's happening.
I mean, from what I'm seeing, and that you guys give me your take because you live there, and I don't know if you've had much, if you've been able to witness or see much of what's really been going on with these facilities to date. But it seems to me too, it's an opportunity for any municipality that can avail itself of these kinds of funds to sort of subsidize the local municipal budget so that they can solve some of their own problems, like because homeless shelters are always an issue for the municipalities. So it's sort of like uploading the cost of some of this stuff so that the local politicians then don't have to deal with the financial burden of that. Plus, when you're handing out contracts to certain, you can kind of direct where the money goes, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
Right.
So it's interesting that you bring that up, because there's a couple of reasons why. Well, there's a lot of reasons why the homeless population is growing. I see more and more people in the streets of Windsor every day. It seems to be getting worse and worse. There's more people at stoplights with signs saying "spare some change."
True.
And they just seem to be multiplying. Yeah.
Sleeping in front of doorways.
Yeah, sleeping in front of doorways,
Sad, really.
businesses going out of business, empty storefronts, all that kind of thing. And it's like, so number one, this was an effort that they're doing to protect migrant workers. So number one, they say that these are jobs that Canadians won't do. It's mostly like farm jobs and fruit picking and stuff like that. I can attest that is not the truth. I worked on farms and picked fruit back in my younger days. And everyone that worked there was traditional, was part of the traditional Canadian culture. I had no problem doing that. It's just that these days, the companies that are doing it, they don't want to pay so much, and Canadians will only, Canadians have a standard that they want to get paid for. I believe they're able to pay these migrant workers less, which is why they bring them in.
Yes.
Okay, so there's that. Number one, so we're seeing more and more people on the streets because well, there's less and less jobs, and the people that are living here aren't getting taken care of, and they're just bringing in more people from outside of the country, which only makes things worse. So there's, I don't know. There's just so much wrong with this situation that's not even funny.
Yeah.
There was something else, but I lost it.
Well, it is true. I mean, it's hard to believe that they can't find Canadians.
Oh, they can
to work, right? Like I think I think they can. They might have to pay a couple of dollars an hour more or something like that. But
well, when I worked out west picking apples in Kelowna. That was the best of the fruit picking jobs, and we got $13.25 for a 2x2x2 bin of apples, and I was picking juice apples. So they gave us sticks, and they said just shake them off the tree, pick them up, and then throw them in the bin. They didn't care if they were bruised. So yeah, we made actually really good money doing that. Sometimes like $600-700 a week, and we weren't even working that hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, go ahead.
So today they didn't really indicate where this facility was going to be, or did they?
No, they didn't. There was also a lot of people.
They might not have had the chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people talking over them. They weren't. Most people. I mean, he was doing a lot of sitting there and waiting for people to stop talking. It was actually kind of annoying because he just sat there and smirked the entire time, like it was all, like it was all just a big joke. These people aren't really like, they don't have. He was basically invalidating everyone's concerns just by standing there smirking and saying, okay, like we'll wait until you're done screaming and yelling, and then we'll finish up with our announcement so we can get on with things. Like they're just like they just don't care at all. They have an agenda. So
it seemed to me like, and you give me your sense because you guys were there, but the crowd seemed to be just expressing their frustration overall, not just over this single announcement today. People, it just seems to just fed up, period.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah. And it boiled over, and it's understandable. The thing is, there was no real like organizing force behind this. This was all just people coming out because like there was a bunch of emails and texts being spread around in our for the people that are paying attention here, and yeah, I mean, I when I got there, I was actually kind of surprised at how many people were there. I didn't think that there would be that many of us, but it was nice to see that.
You didn't appear to have any supporters in the crowd.
No, it didn't seem like that at all. Well, except for the media.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
He didn't seem to have any supporters there of his own.
Oh,
yeah. The only sympathetic ears I believe that he had were the guys with the cameras.
Yeah. Well, those guys seem to be sort of on the government page all the time these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you find the local media in the Windsor Essex region? Are they any good, or are they pretty biased? Like I've listened to some of the radio stations down there, especially that Dan McDonald guy. He's just he just makes my head explode. But
yeah, he's not objective at all. And AM 800 in general, they're just they're pretty biased towards anyone who has a dissenting opinion, anyone who takes to the street to protest. They don't want to hear you. They don't want to see you. They don't know what's wrong with you. There's something wrong with you because you don't. Why don't you just take the drink the Kool-Aid, and but we participated in a protest just this past about a week ago. We protested in front of the health unit with a big sign that said that it's a racket, and the Kool-Aid doesn't slow the spread; it just makes bread. And it's a 20-foot banner, 20 by 3-foot banner. So we really got the message out right in the heart of the city. And so CTV came down and actually did a very balanced report on it. So I mean, honestly, I was I was kind of like
surprised,
and I was kind of surprised. It was nice though. It was very nice. We did a press release though. We handled it in the most professional way possible, and they actually complimented us on that. So that was nice to see. It's nice to see some balance in reporting. There's some objectivity, and but the newspaper it's more slanted as well. AM 800 though, they're the absolute worst. They're just completely off the wall biased.
Yeah. Do you think this is should be serve as a warning to the government? It seems to me they should be taking note of the mood of the people, because it it really was reaching a boiling point there today.
Oh yeah, they
Should have been
should.
doing that a long time ago.
They should have been actually, yeah. And this is only going to get the crowds are only going to grow. This was not even organized, like I was saying. It was just an organic kind of, people just showed up because they heard about it. And and if that's what happened because everyone just heard about it and had it was motivated enough to go down there and let themselves be heard, then think about it when there's actual organization involved. There's going to be a lot more of this going on, and I don't know why the government doesn't want to pay attention to dissenting voices or people that are not happy, people that are protesting for good reason. They're not listening, and if they don't listen, it's just going to get worse. So, everyone says things are going to have to get worse before they get better. Well, this is why, because they're not listening. They're just dismissing us. They're just dismissing any concern as invalid, and it's going to come and bite them in the ass in the end.
Yeah. Well, it's not just them, it's social media censoring
Yeah.
everything. They've taken people's voices away for
They
so
have.
long.
Yep, absolutely. And that works for them, in the social media sphere. It works on the internet, but when you can't do that, good luck trying to do that to people in the streets.
Well, you saw it today,
Yeah.
right? People are going to
Yeah.
speak up when given the chance.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it was
Absolutely.
their turn to not let their voices be heard.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. A little bit of a role reversal
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So where do you think this is going to go?
Well, I believe we're heading more in a direction, the organization that we're involved with putting out a clear message, and we want to basically spread the word to the public that they're being lied to. And I think people are at the point now that they're receptive. It wasn't like this a year ago. It was quite the opposite. But I think we're there, and basically we want to put out a clear, understandable message. And it's like everyone knew that big pharma was a scam. Everyone used to know this, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, trust the science, and how dare you question,
The Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid, yeah, and it's like, come on, So I think we're back at a point where people are like, yeah, that's right, yeah, big pharma, yeah, they're they're the ones who paid out the biggest lawsuit in American history. Oh yeah, that was big pharma. That was Pfizer, right? Now I remember.
So as we approach the fall, do you think this is an indication of, or a foreshadowing of the government's plans, in the months ahead?
I believe so. Yeah. I don't know what they have in mind, but we're expecting some kind of nonsense and shenanigans, if you will, some tomfoolery.
I'll be more worried when I see fences go up around like
Yeah.
voluntary isolation.
Right. I don't
facilities.
I don't think there's really too much to worry about, because I say bring it on. I say
That's right.
it's only when it gets worse that everyone is going to be like, oh my god, yeah, these guys are they're not messing around, like the government doesn't have our best interests in mind. As a matter of fact, they seem to be against our interests, and it's like only when the government oversteps its bounds that's when people snap out of it. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate, but it's just part of the human condition. People won't change until they're made to be not comfortable anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah, comfort is what keeps them complacent. That's why all those bucks were printed for to keep people at home during COVID, while they're out of their jobs, while they're they were just well, I still got enough money, so who cares? I still have food, so who cares? I don't think it's going to be like that this year, and I think like I said, I say bring it on. If the government wants to really push us, then we're ready to push back.
You know, when I look back at the government response, which I've never been personally in favor of, I think that so much of what government did sort of made things worse when they shut down all the small businesses and forced everyone to go to big box stores. It seemed like that was just one of the things where they were forcing everyone to go to one place. So if you do have an illness of some kind, you're almost guaranteeing that it's going to spread because you're forcing everyone into one place. Now I look at these isolation facilities and I wonder if how effective could that possibly be when they're encouraging not only infected people to go there, but they're also saying, from what I've seen in these news releases, if you're I think they'll even take in people who are not infected if they want to isolate for whatever reason. I don't. It just seems almost like they're maybe incubators instead of isolation facilities.
Yeah, that's
Kind of like those nursing homes in New York when this
Right.
thing-
Exactly what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if they're willing to take away our liberties and our rights, then they just don't have our best interests in mind. It doesn't matter if they say that they're trying to protect us and they say that they have our safety in mind. If they're willing to overstep already established, entrenched rights and freedoms, laws that are on the books, if they're willing to overstep all that, then I mean, in my mind, they're full of it, and I mean, I just don't believe a thing they say anymore. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. None of this.
Yeah.
I mean, if you take a look at other countries' responses to COVID, I think it was Sweden. They took a what the people were calling at the time an experimental approach, and it was because they followed their laws, they followed their constitutions, they protected people's liberties and rights, so not to step on other people's lives in the interests of already established the already established national order. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They actually their numbers were lower. Their numbers were lower, and didn't basically tear the fabric.
They didn't lock everything down the same way we did here.
No, they didn't. They didn't. They kept it open as much as possible. They took a more balanced approach. And I think that's important to note because it worked out in their favor. Like the numbers around the world, no matter what, like if you look at say the states, where like states like Florida, they didn't enforce masks and lockdowns after a while. I mean, their numbers were basically the same as everywhere else, no matter what. So the blue states and the red states basically had this. Same COVID numbers, no matter what kind of approach they took. I mean, that speaks volumes about, the effectiveness of their approach. So it doesn't matter. You can be as draconian as you want in your approach. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to make it safer, and it just makes people question why you're taking that approach. I mean, they should be questioning why you're taking that approach when it's not doing a lick of difference.
And what kind of impact did you see these government measures have on your community in Windsor Essex? Businesses and individuals, and we've heard about depression and suicides and things like that. Can you speak to that?
It drove apart friends and families. We saw that.
Absolutely. My business basically dried up overnight when they imposed the lockdown. The money ran out, and there was nothing I could do because my business relies on other businesses, and I mean they were all closed. So I just they could have taken a better approach to it. I don't believe lockdowns work. I mean, and if you look at the numbers of
Massive transfer of wealth.
yeah, that's true
Large
too.
corporations.
Yeah, so they locked down all the mom and
Amazon
pop
and Walmart
shops,
were
but
for
yeah,
business,
yeah,
for sure.
that's for sure. They let all the big box stores stay open, but mom and pop shops and small businesses, had to shut down. It didn't make any sense. And like you said earlier, if it was, I mean, if they were really wanting to protect people through social distancing and everything like that, instead of cramming them into one place, cramming everyone into one place like Walmart or one or two Walmarts in town, they could have just let the other places stay open and spread everybody out all over the city where they usually went. So it didn't make any difference or any sense, and it made like my business suffered. It will never recover to the point where it was again. We used to operate at a lot higher of a level. We're nowhere near that now. I used to have 6 employees. I have 1 now. Also, my father was in the hospital. These measures that they introduced made it so that I wasn't allowed to visit after a while. He was in there for 15 months, dying in the hospital. And at a certain point, they said, "You're not allowed in anymore." And I was only allowed, that was back in September last year. I was only allowed back in at the end of January when he was dying. So this is no joke. This has had real effects on people's on people's lives, on their psyches. There's been like real pain and suffering that people have gone through, not just individually but with their families. And I can't see how a government that says they care about their people can impose these things and just think that there's nothing wrong with doing that. They do not have our best interest in mind. If they think that they can make people suffer like this, and
They encourage the suffering too.
yeah, it seems so.
They did.
It seems
Trudeau's
so. Yeah.
On stage telling people don't don't associate with your families this Christmas if they're not vaccinated, make them feel bad.
Oh
so
yeah,
don't
that's
do
true
it.
too. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
encouraging
He's
that
encouraging that hate.
divide. And there's people in my family that, they say, "Oh, you got to follow the rules. You can't come over if you don't follow the rules." And they where are they getting this from? They're getting it from what's being told to them in the media and in the government, like the people that that they're supposed to trust, right? Or that we used to trust, But yeah, this has been nothing but hell. I mean, it could be worse. Obviously, there's other places in the world that are going through a lot worse than we are, but at the same time, this is avoidable. We don't need to be doing this
It's
to ourselves.
unacceptable at any rate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when I saw the video streams, the politicians that were there, they didn't even really make an attempt to engage or empathize. They just sort of stood there and smiled and kind of took it, and then they went inside to do their scrum with the media.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think any of this is resonating with them? Are they getting the message? Do they at all?
I think they expected it, and they know who their real constituents are, right? They know who they're really representing,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
they knew what to expect.
At the same time, though, I don't know. There's a lot of angry people there today. I mean, yeah, Eric or whatever his name is, Iraq. Yeah, he was smirking, but it seemed like it seemed like he was it was like a facade. I think if anyone in that position who knows that they're not doing what's right, they know that for a fact. If they put themselves in that position and then angry people start showing up, they're gonna start getting a little nervous, and eventually they're gonna start getting desperate. And who knows what'll happen then? Because my prediction is that they're gonna probably try to impose more laws against protests. If, like, say, something pops off, who knows? I mean, but just the fact that he had all those people there angry at him. I mean, yeah, I just can't see that not affecting them. I mean, I know they got bodyguards there, right? Who are willing to do the dirty work for them, but they got houses that they go home to at night and they got families that they're trying to protect. They must cross their mind from time to time that there's a lot of people that are pissed off at them.
Yeah, I've never seen the country in such a state.
Me neither, man.
Yeah. And they have to be thinking about reelection at some point. And it's the people that have to decide.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing, though. Like the voter apathy is so high. You know, it's like the ones that do come out, they're the ones that vote liberal,
Mhm.
unfortunately, or whatever, like the traditional parties, which are all completely ineffective.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even at the municipal level, people tend to just vote for the names they recognize,
Yeah.
so you get the same thing, rinse and repeat over and over again.
Right, which is why we're taking more of we're taking an approach to what we're doing, um, like that's going to be like a regular thing. We want people to see us and people to hear us and people to know what we're saying. We want them to hear our message and we want to do it regularly so they get used to it. And not only that, but so that they'll join us. You know, that's why we're trying to come up with a clear, understandable message, something that resonates with people, something that's provable and correct. And so they might want to join us when they get to that point where they're not comfortable anymore.
Yeah. Well, 4.2 million, I think, locally is the number. 28 million across Canada, I believe. So I don't know if they're actually going to be building a new building. I would think that they're going to either repurpose a facility or continue to use a facility that has been used for this purpose.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, for those, what was it, 4.2?
Yeah,
Yeah,
4.2 million.
yeah. There's rumors of of using already existing hotels, which is
Yeah.
kind of weird. I mean, like, so they say they're for migrant workers. How is it like? I don't know. I just like how many migrant workers are they bringing in that they have to dedicate $4.2 million to repurpose a hotel? Like, I mean, when we first heard voluntary isolation facility, I just thought, well, why not just do that? You already have one. It's called your house, where you live. So that just didn't make sense on its face. Now that they're saying it's for migrant workers, it still doesn't make any sense because where do they live? They live in their cabins there or the picker cabins or whatever, So I mean, I'm guessing like it's gonna be hotels, but at the same time, I don't know. There's not enough details there to be like it doesn't make sense either way, but there's not enough details there to be able to flesh out what their plan is.
They say these are voluntary isolation centers, but I have to wonder, right? Because when they said that the thing in the arm was going to be voluntary,
Yeah.
it was like, but if you have a choice,
Voluntary.
but if you don't do it, don't think you're going to get on a plane or a train, or you might not have a job.
Right? You
I
might
don't
be
know how
getting on the wrong
voluntary that
kind of a
was.
train, who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Trudeau said, and there's all kinds of write-ups about it. Oh, some Canadians think that they're going to be mandating vaccines in the future. Here's why that's wrong. And then next thing you know, yeah. So, yeah, they like it's the old, two-step shuffle to dictatorship. You know what I mean? They say one thing and do another. Well, it must be true. I mean, they're voluntary because they said so, right?
Well, guys, I think that gives us the lay of the land for today. I know you guys have, I think you guys have one of the strongest freedom fighting groups and communities in the country down there. And
Thank
I'm
you.
sure you guys will be active in the weeks and months ahead, especially with all of this going on now. This is going to
You can
be,
count on
I
it.
would think, an additional catalyst for further action, right? Do you have any rallies or other things coming up that you're going to be promoting?
We do. We have regular action planned, and we meet regularly to we work on messaging and effective action. So it's not just like meaningless chants and rallies that really don't do anything. Like we're trying to get a message out. We want to reach the people around us who we used to get along with. We want to reach the people around us who used to be our friends and the people who still are our families, who disagree with us because they've been misinformed. We are pointing out basically that they're lying. They're being lied to, and here's what's a lie. And we're putting out clear, understandable, and concise messages, one issue at a time, one message at a time.
Goal
And
number one, undo the damage that's been done to their psyche.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely. But I mean, like, we can't do this alone. We need to bring other people in with us. Like there's a
We
certain
don't want to be the strongest group. We want people to rival us and do better.
yeah,
We don't
Right.
care about being the best.
Right.
absolutely. But I mean, like, we want people to join us. We need people. We need more people on board because there's strength in numbers. If you look at the success of the convoy, I see a lot of the success of the convoy was, number one, well, it's the Jones effect. When people see other people doing something en masse, then they think it's normal. It's only then when they see a lot of people doing it, like Edward Bernays had a lot of experience in that. But that was one of the successes of it. And what that did was it changed attitudes among the general population. It kind of melted a lot of the iciness that people had towards the UV community. In so much as, like, people that used to be really angry with me, are buddying up to me again. How did that happen? Because a lot of people got together and said, "Hey, look at us. We're not just a few people. We're a lot of people." And so that's why that's what we're doing. We're getting other people to join us, and you can't get other people to join us by just being angry. You have to have a clear message, and that's another reason why the convoy worked, because it was a big love fest, right? It was a big
Right.
party, and they kept things on that vibe. And it didn't matter what the media said. It didn't matter what the government said, because social media, everyone had a friend that was there saying, "Hey, look at this! Look at this awesome party that I'm at." And it didn't matter whether they were on one side or the other. They were seeing with their own eyes that the government and the media were full of it. So that's kind of our approach. We're just trying to expose the lies.
Today, even though the crowd was upset, even though they were very vocal, I did take note that they were entirely peaceful.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you can't blame people for being angry. That's for sure. But we, as Canadians, are generally civil people. We don't just pop off for no reason. That usually happens on the ice, right? But
Mhm.
in general, though, Canadians are, and we're known as being generally nice people. And even though there's a lot of us that are standing up for what we believe in and standing up for our rights, we're still very caring, traditional Canadian type people, nice people. I
So,
believe
yeah.
we're a good people here in Canada. We're a lot different from Americans in that sense.
Yeah.
So
So the av-
Americans are nice too, but there's
Sorry, Americans.
Americans are nice too. But I've been all over Canada, and I've traveled over the roads from between here and BC, and I've met all kinds of people from big cities to small towns, and I've never been. I mean, there's just this small town kind of approach to relationships here with each other. And we're generally civil towards each other, which is nice.
I will say that crowd today, though, seemed to be like that was about the most upset I've seen people so far.
It was nice. I mean, it's nice
Yeah.
to see people expressing themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know,
We're just fed up.
yeah, that we're fed
Oh
up.
yeah.
We've
Yeah.
been listening to lies for so long, and we've been the enemy, the public enemy, made the public enemy, and
Yeah.
we're just fed up. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to even let them speak anymore.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. They have demonized the freedom movement, the unvaccinated.
Oh,
They've Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the freedom movement.
Right. Or the so-called
No,
freedom movement. I hate that.
I know it's ridiculous.
Well, imagine how shameful they would look just blaming the freedom movement without putting freedom in quotations. They have to.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
that's true. And it still doesn't. I still don't understand what the hell they're trying to say. Like freedom in quotations. Yeah, we like freedom. We like our traditional rights and freedoms that we have that we've always enjoyed here in Canada.
I never thought I'd see the day where the word freedom was a dirty word.
Well,
Doesn't make sense, does it?
it was predicted in by Orwell, right?
Mm.
Freedom is slavery, war is peace, ignorance is strength, her penis, right?
That's right. Well, you guys are out there, and even though the crowd was upset today, understandably so, I think that you guys are out there winning hearts and minds, and doing good work. So I appreciate you joining us on the program. Is there anything else you'd like to add, or think that I might be missing?
You can go to standupwindsor.ca or Freedom Alliance Canada for more information about what we're doing and the action that we're taking. And yeah, check those out. Standupwindsor.ca, Freedom Alliance Canada.
Okay, guys.
We
Thank you for fighting for freedom today, and I'm sure that effort will continue. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Rick.
Fighting the Great Reset by leading the Great Resistance. Maverick News. The antivirus programs for your mind.
Don't go away. When we come back, we're going to talk about Mike Tyson, his experience with the thing in the arm, and why he's scared of dying.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Welcome back. Mike Tyson, legendary boxer, tough guy, strong, right? Not so strong these days, apparently. Not as strong as he was. Seen in a hospital, or sorry, not in hospital, but going through an airport like this. Let me show you. I think you'll be surprised at what you're about to see. And maybe alarmed. Mike Tyson in a wheelchair. Feeling weak? Why? Well, Mike Tyson says he was beaten into submission to do something that he didn't really want to do, but says he was forced to if he wanted to earn a living and take care of his family. he got a thing in his shoulder. And now he says he's afraid of dying. It seems he's reflecting a lot on what life really means, what the meaning of life is. He's become, according to a variety of reports and based on a recent interview he did, he's getting philosophical these days. He was on a podcast called Hot Boxing with Sean McFarland. And Tyson says, we're all going to die one day, of course. Then when I look in the mirror, I see those little spots on my face and I say, wow, that means my expiration date is coming close real soon. So we have a couple of clips from Mike Tyson here for you to listen to. We have a lot of other news to share with you as well, but this one, timely and ties into what we've just been talking about. You have to remember just over 2 years ago or so, he stepped back into the ring in a pay-per-view event. And put on a pretty good show for an older boxer. A lot of people thinking, make a comeback. Now, Mike Tyson not feeling nearly as strong as he used to. This is a clip from that interview.
But I must say, if I could be kind enough to say, I didn't do it willingly. I'm a little apprehensive of that. I was pretty much beaten in submission to do this because I traveled internationally, and if I don't travel, we don't eat.
So that's one clip from him referring to getting the thing here. Didn't do it willingly, like many, many other people. That's why when the government in Canada says these isolation facilities are voluntary, one has to wonder what the definition of voluntary is. They said no one would be forced to take the thing in the arm, and yet many people ended up losing their jobs. And so many of us, all of us really, had our freedoms either restricted or stripped from us completely. We saw how far the government was willing to go when the Prime Minister invoked the Emergencies Act. Well, now here's Mike Tyson talking about essentially the meaning of life as he contemplates death. Let me run you this clip. One of the most lethal boxers in history, Mike Tyson.
Everyone becomes philosophical. I don't care if you think, because the expiration date makes you become philosophical. And people have known to stress themselves to death, and it's a fact. People stress themselves to death. So I'm not doing that. Even if I'm in the flood, I'm just going to stay calm, relax, and hope God saves me.
He hopes God saves him, reflecting on his expiration date. We all have one. Nobody knows how much time they have when the clock is going to stop ticking. And these days, with so many people having done this, I think more of this than ever are reflecting on exactly that. Don't go away. We're going to take another brief break. When we come back, we're going to dig into some other international news, and then we're going to go to the phones, and you guys can weigh in on tonight's, I think, main topic, which is these government isolation facilities, Well, you can call them whatever you want when you call in tonight. Don't go away. There's more ahead.
Hello, world. Are you awake? Uniting humankind by liberating millions of minds at a time. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Canada's federal government has been sending agents onto farms in the province of Saskatchewan. When they've been venturing onto the properties, they've been taking water samples. So this is being reported across the country tonight. Saskatchewan, the province of Saskatchewan, is now sending a warning to the Trudeau government saying that their agents, the federal agents, might end up being charged with trespass if they continue to engage in this kind of activity. Saskatchewan's really brewing for a fight with the federal government because farming is such a big part of the economy out there. The government has clearly declared war on farmers over this nitrogen issue, the issue of fertilizer. It's threatening the livelihoods of farmers in this country. And now with these trespasses against farmers, it's just giving rise to even more concerns and pitting not only farmers, but now the provincial government against the federal government. So there's a letter from Jeremy Cockrell, Minister, Saskatchewan, to the federal government. And Minister Guilbeault explaining why his department is passing on private land and why that is a violation of provincial law. The letter, if I can bring it up here for you, and I'll show you the letter itself. Right there. To the Honorable Stephen Guilbeault, Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Dear Mr. Guilbeault, as the minister responsible for the Saskatchewan Water Security Agency, the provincial agency responsible for all water management related activities in Saskatchewan, I wish to bring to your attention a number of serious issues requiring immediate clarification and explanation. Recently, Saskatchewan producers in the Pence, Mossbank, and Pilot Butte areas contacted the government of Saskatchewan and raised serious concerns about Government of Canada employees in clearly marked Government of Canada vehicles trespassing on private lands. When approached by producers, these employees indicated that they were testing water sources for pesticide and nitrate levels, fertilizer. The lands and water body, the producers' dugout, are both privately owned. Government of Canada representatives did not request permission to enter from the landowner, nor did they seek permission to perform testing or advise landowners of any other purpose or necessity for attendance. And the letter goes on, but you get the picture. The federal government has incredible power. The federal government has not really respected property rights in this country for a long time. The federal government needs to be reined in. The federal government needs to be reined in with tougher constitutional provisions. We need to beef up that Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and we need to get that notwithstanding clause out of it. We need to find a way to do that. And I'm hoping that that legal challenge from former Newfoundland Premier Brian Peckford is successful. It is moving its way through the courts. I'm going to tell you a story. And this goes back, well, I'm going to try and find the year for you. The Emerald Ash Borer. I can't remember the exact year now, but this goes back, 12, 15 years. The Emerald Ash Borer is an insect that began to infect trees in Canada. It was killing them all off. So the Canadian Food Inspection Agency took charge of the situation, and there's some pictures of the Emerald Ash Borer. It was an invasive species, killing off all the trees. The solution from the federal government to this invasive species, in their minds, was to create a firewall, as they called it. They hired a whole bunch of people with federal cash, our money, and employed them to cut down every ash tree, every single ash tree, from Lake Erie to Lake St. Clair. Let me bring up a map. So they were going every ash tree from one lake to the other, all the way across, thinking, like the idiots that they were and are, thinking that they could stop the Emerald Ash Borer by cutting a swath, eliminating all the ash trees, the food supply for the Emerald Ash Borers, by cutting it off so they couldn't move, or so they thought. So this is just a map to show you. So you're going from one lake to the other. That was their plan. You see, you cut a line, and then theoretically, the Emerald Ash Borer wouldn't be able to go any further, right? Just cut down all the trees, and then it stops. So for months that one summer, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the year, but probably 12 or 15 years ago. And I tried to look it up here, but I couldn't quickly, and it just came to mind. But I was out there covering this as a journalist, and that's what they were doing. On public land, private land, wherever they could find an ash tree, they cut those things down. And they didn't care if the landowner didn't want it done. They came onto every property, every farm, every property in the city here that I live in, and they cut down every ash tree that they could find. Every single one. It was a massive operation, incredibly expensive. And many landowners protested. They didn't want their ash trees cut down. And I was covering this, and I said, well, if the Emerald Ash Borer doesn't get your tree, the government of Canada will. One way or another, it's dead. And that's what they did. And the property owners' wishes, their rights, be damned. And they did it. Because the Constitution of this country is just not strong enough. Well, they completed the task, and they cut down virtually every tree, every one they could find. By the way, it was strange, but some of that lumber seemed to end up in some flooring, as I recall, but that was another story. It was supposed to be disposed of so that those bugs wouldn't spread. But I can tell you this, I think it was only about 1 or 2 weeks after that project was completed, the Emerald Ash Borer was discovered in Northern Ontario. A lot of good it did. A lot of wasted money, a lot of wasted manpower, a lot of dead trees. And there is a chemical that you can inject into an ash tree, an insecticide that can save them. It's just expensive. But they didn't give the property owners the choice. They took that choice away from the property owners and cut them all down. We need to strengthen our rights. We need to rein in the government. The government is supposed to be there to protect our rights. And for a long time, they've lost sight of that. It's wrong. It's got to change. It's got to change. Don't go away. More right after this.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
You can support this channel by donating at freedomreporters.com. Help us. Help us continue the fight on the information warfare front. That's what we're here for. That's what we're doing. We're providing a voice for you. We're providing a voice for people who have been and continue to be, in some cases, voiceless for as long as we can be. That's what we're here for. You can support our work at freedomreporters.com. Takes you right to the donation page. Like, share, subscribe, and make sure you subscribe over on Rumble. My apologies. The Rumble feed did not take right away today. I did get it set up and fixed. We are streaming on Rumble right now, but the broadcast started about 20 minutes late over there tonight. For whatever reason, it just didn't catch when the live streams began at 6 p.m. But we're running okay over there now. So again, freedomreporters.com to support the channel. We sure would appreciate any help you can provide. We have a lot of work to do, and we're right now trying to build up enough money to provide live coverage of James Topp when he makes his way back into Ontario with the second phase of his march across Canada, fighting for freedom. The other guy who's embroiled in a fight is Donald Trump. And we are learning this evening that Donald Trump is taking steps. He has filed a motion for a special master to review items seized in the Mar-a-Lago raid. Trump filed the motion, or his lawyers did, in federal court in Florida today, seeking the appointment of a special master. The motion seeks an injunction that would bar the government from any further review of the seized materials until the appointment of that special master, and also requests a more detailed receipt from the government of items that were seized. The motion goes on and has an additional request of an order from the judge to have the Justice Department return any item seized that was not within the scope of the search warrant. You may recall they took his passports, which have since, I believe, been returned. So a statement was issued after the filing. Justice Department spokesperson Anthony Coley said, quote, "The August 8th search warrant at Mar-a-Lago was authorized by a federal court upon the required finding of probable cause. The department is aware of this evening's motion. The United States will file its response in court." So sources say that the search of the Trump home at the search of Trump's Palm Beach home 2 weeks ago was connected to a probe into whether Trump improperly took classified documents and other records to Florida after leaving the White House. Of course, we've heard that before. And in January, National Archives officials retrieved 15 boxes of records that they said had been improperly taken to Mar-a-Lago when Trump left the White House last year. So the battle continues for Donald Trump. Also tonight, that car bombing in Russia. Video and a photo have been released of a suspect. Russia's Federal Security Service has released a video of Ukrainian national Natalia Vovk. I'm sorry, I'm probably pronouncing it incorrectly. Vovk. Natalia Vovk. Vovk. I apologize. This news just came in, and I do not have the pronunciation of her last name. But she has been identified as the prime suspect in Saturday's car bombing that killed journalist Daria Dugina in Moscow. The footage has been published, and it shows Vovk and her teenage daughter entering Russia inside the building where Dugina lived and leaving the country shortly thereafter. Vovk is 43 years old and has been named as the prime suspect in the assassination of Dugina. Dugina is the daughter of a close Putin ally who is described as Putin's brain. So we have video of that suspect. Who is wanted in connection with the car bombing, assassination of Dugina, the daughter of Alexander Dugin. A philosopher. And as I say, a close ally of Vladimir Putin. So let's take a look at this video. We'll show you what she looks like. I don't think any mainstream media that I've been aware of tonight has been running this at all. And here's the video. This is them entering Russia. Russian authorities say this is her entering the building where the victim lived. And then leaving the country.
Так, открывайте капот, бардачок, все открывайте. Вещи выгружайте из багажника. Столик освободился. Открывайте, открывайте. Двери все тоже должны быть открыты. Очередь одна для всех.
The car being inspected.
Так, здесь сиденье тоже отодвиньте, пожалуйста. Мгм.
All images from Russian authorities. So this is their take on that story, that situation. That's their suspect. In Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has a different take on what's going on in Ukraine. Of course, Putin is the villain, according to Justin Trudeau. And today he had something to say about the turbine that goes back into that Nord Stream pipeline. He was meeting with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz today. And during the news conference, spoke about that turbine again in reference to what's going on in Ukraine with the war against Russia. And he's saying that by returning that turbine, now Putin has no excuse. Nobody to blame. And will have no justification for, in his words, weaponizing energy. I'll let this roll and you'll see what I'm getting at. Here we go.
Will continue to be reliant for the coming year or two on Russian oil and gas imports, specifically on gas. Russia does not want to continue to send as much oil and gas as is needed to Europe. But Russia doesn't want to take responsibility for its choice to not live up to the contracts they have with Europe. And so they are looking to blame anyone else, like Canada, for their not delivering on their obligations. What we have done by returning those turbines, or that turbine, is remove the excuse that Russia had to blame someone else, anyone else, for their decision to weaponize energy policy. What Russia's goal is not just to create divisions amongst countries that are solid and steadfast in their support for Ukraine, but undermine public support for the strong stance that our countries have taken in support of Ukraine. And in that, we chose to take the difficult decision of returning those turbines because we do not want division in our steadfast support for Ukraine or lack of the political support in our democracies for doing the right thing. C'est très clair que la Russie.
So that was Justin Trudeau today. War is such a strange thing. You have people literally killing each other with bombs and guns and crazy modern weapons. And then you have a politician standing there saying, yeah, but they still have to sell us the oil, or they still have to sell us the natural gas. There are rules. It's weird. It's a very weird thing. And Clark Arthur says that still can't get things running properly over on Rumble. That might explain why we don't have any viewers over there tonight. I'm monitoring the screen and it's not running right. So that's kind of weird when the screen goes black after thumbnail ends. Sorry, guys. I don't know what went wrong with Rumble, but we'll get it back up and running tomorrow. My apologies for that. It's strange though, you know, the politicians over here, they apparently are allowed to do anything they want. Sanctions, they took away the SWIFT payment platform so that Russia would not be able to conduct business internationally. All the Western corporations, even companies like McDonald's, pull out of Russia. Companies like, you know, online companies, they stop providing services there. Credit card companies, everybody in the West pulls away. They can impose any sanctions they want. They're allowed to do whatever they want. But if Russia doesn't follow through and provide natural gas, well, that's another story. He's evil. That's not allowed. They're allowed to do whatever they want, but the other guys, they're not allowed to do anything. It was kind of like that with the truckers back during the Freedom Convoy. The federal government, they get to do whatever they want. They can freeze bank accounts, beat the protesters with batons. The truckers, they're all a bunch of Nazis, and they have to leave. We get to throw the leaders in jail. Or at the end of the day, it makes no sense. None whatsoever. Pink Floyd, we ran some clips from him a couple weeks ago, I think. And he, of course, is very critical of the West and its position and what the West is doing, what NATO is doing in Ukraine. We ran a bunch of those clips. Well, as a result of that, and because he has been anti-war, the Ukrainian government has added his name to that hit list, the death list that we've told you about before. Let me bring that up. I'll show you the website again. We've shown it to you before. Here it is here. In English, it's called Peacemaker. In Ukrainian, it's called Mirotvorets, the Mirotvorets Center. And be forewarned, there could be some graphic images on here. You may want to turn your head away when we bring this up, because at a given moment, there could be some very graphic images on this website. So here it is. And there is a list of thousands of journalists, activists, artists on this website, all targeted for incarceration and death. And now Roger Waters has been added to the list. Musician. That is also another example of why war is such a weird, strange, immoral, tragic thing. Roger Waters added to Ukraine's Mirotvorets website database. This is the story out of Russia, and many other stories about this just coming out now through some mainstream media, but mostly alternative media and independent media in the West. So something to take note of. Many prominent international journalists on that site as well. And some scholars, professors, including John Mearsheimer, an American professor, expert, authority in geopolitics. It's wrong what they're doing, and you can stand against lists like that by signing our petition let me just get the banner up here for you. We have a petition ongoing that is apolitical. It just simply calls on our governments in Canada and the United States to oppose and put pressure on the Ukrainian government to take down hit lists like that. It's our view that journalists should not be targeted by governments for death. They're not combatants. Artists are not combatants. And if we are truly supposed to be fighting for democracy and freedom, our governments should be putting pressure on the Ukrainian government to protect free speech. And that means not allowing lists like that, which appear to be state sanctioned and tolerated at the very least. They should not be allowing those kinds of lists to remain up on the internet and distributed, because that's absolutely an assault on free speech. So many banners up here, but here it is right here. You can go to maverickpetitions.com, maverickpetitions.com. Sign the petition there after you read it, if you agree with it. And I'll bring up a screenshot of what that website looks like. Journalist Ava Bartlett is on that list. I suspect John Mark Dugan is as well. A petition to protect journalists covering Ukraine. And that includes all journalists, regardless of their perceived political slant or ideology. It simply asks our government to put pressure on the government in Ukraine to protect, especially Canadian and US citizens who are working as journalists in the country over there right now, by demanding that that government take down hit lists. If our government truly believes in free speech, freedom at all, it's not even a question. This is not too much to ask. And if our governments are going to send aid, weapons, cash, billions of dollars to Ukraine, then it's only appropriate that we require the recipients of that aid to act in moral, ethical ways. In my view, that means you don't murder journalists or artists or activists. You just don't do that. maverickpetitions.com. Once we get enough signatures gathered, we will forward the petition to the appropriate government authorities so that it can make its way through the system and be presented to the right people to have some impact. It's all explained at maverickpetitions.com. Stay with me. When we come back, we're going to the phones, and you guys can weigh in on tonight's lead stories. And I'm sure you're probably going to want to talk about these new Trudeau isolation facilities. Don't go away.
Fighting the Great Reset by leading the Great Resistance. Maverick News. The antivirus programs for your mind. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay, I'm back, but only for a moment. The phone lines are open now. Here's the number to call.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975. Free. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a maverick. Join us.
Okay, I'm back, and you can join me here on the program live. Exercise your right to free speech right here, right now. You can make a difference just by sharing your thoughts. I think that drives the politicians crazy these days. So let me get that number up here on the screen for you again so you know what number to call. I have to scroll up here. The joys of producing on your own. But there you go. 1-833-975-3733. 1-833-975 free to join me here on the Maverick News Channel tonight. We can talk about really anything you want, but I'm sure that you guys would like to chime in on these Trudeau quarantine centers, these isolation centers, as he's calling them. 1-833-975-3733. I'm just going to play the promo one more time so you know what number to call. 1-833-975-3733. Hang on, I'm just going to tweak the system here a little bit. One more promo, and then hopefully we'll get some calls lined up. It sometimes takes a few minutes for the calls to dump into the queue. Here we go.
Hello, world. Are you awake? Uniting humankind by liberating millions of minds at a time. Maverick News. The world is watching.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Okay, we're back and we have our first caller of the night, and it's Stephen, and he's a return caller. And Stephen, I think, are you still there? Oh, maybe he dropped off, but we've got some other callers lined up here. No, he dropped off. Okay, we've got another caller coming in. He's screening right now through the screening system, and we'll jump in and bring him up right now. And I think that guy hung up too.
Hello.
Hello, how are you tonight?
I'm very good. I'm down in Costa Rica. I'm a Canadian, and I'm not coming back to Canada until all this nonsense is over with.
Interesting. How long have you been in Costa Rica?
Well, they put the mandate on nobody in an airplane as of November the 1st, so I left on the 31st of October.
Wow. So you got out just in the nick of time.
Yeah.
So
well, I had my ticket booked for the 10th, and then I changed it, and I had to change, and I had to have that thing up the nose, which I didn't want.
Mm-hmm.
But on September 12th, I'll be 80 years old. I've never had a vaccination for anything except tetanus when I took my diving in the 60s.
Hmm. And so you said that you
I've
did
never
go,
had polio shots.
but
Go ahead.
You said you did get the shot before you left?
Oh, no way.
No. Oh,
All
no,
I got
okay.
was that thing up the nose.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense.
Which I did. Yeah. And that cost me $450 at Victoria International Airport. And I've been to Panama, and I went across the border there, and it was $25 US for the same test. It's not funny.
Wow. I know I'm laughing, but it's not not because it's humorous. I'm laughing because it's disgusting.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
So at 80,
at any rate, I'm down here.
Yeah. And what's it like there?
Go ahead.
How are you finding it in Costa Rica? Is it freer?
Well, I first came to Costa Rica in 1987. And then when Mulrooney in 93 signed the free trade agreement, I sold all my houses, my farm, and I moved down here and I bought a coffee farm. And I had that until 2016, and I sold it. And I went back to Canada, and it just got worse and worse. So I'm back down here, and I'm never going back to Canada until they change all this nonsense. Trudeau's out of his mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm in self-exile.
Tell me about life down there in Costa Rica. Do you have more freedom? What's the difference?
Oh yeah. Nobody's wearing masks, and the vaccinations are just if you want it, you can have it. If you don't want it, you don't have to have it. And now they've been giving it to the children, and now all the children are getting COVID, and they're getting sick, which never happened before.
Mm-hmm.
It's the biggest scam that's ever been perpetrated on the Canadians or the world. This whole thing is nonsense. I went in and had a T-cell test at a laboratory here in Naranjo, and I couldn't get the same thing in Canada, but I had it here. And they said, oh, gee, in 2003, you had SARS. I said, I didn't know that. I was sick for 3 weeks. And they said, you got the antibodies for SARS. 17 years later, I still have the antibodies. And I also have the antibodies for COVID. I had that and I was down for 2 weeks, but it was like a bad flu. But I've never taken pills from the pharmacy, and my blood pressure, everything's good. My eyesight's still good. I can still read without glasses. I'm telling you, I always lived and had my own farm, my own garden, my own chickens. We had goats for milk and stuff. But I've always ate organic foods. And I think that's because, I don't know, I'm still in good shape. I can still get around. You know, I've had nothing replaced. I got all my hips, all my knees. I played hockey till I was 38. And then I skied for 10 years. And then, you know, I got no problems. I can't believe it. I've lost so many of my friends. I've lost my apprenticeships. People that work for me, my apprentices, there's 20 of them that are gone. But I think they were injecting more than the COVID vaccine. They were on weird stuff. But anyways, yeah, so it's wonderful down here. I live at Sarchi. It's 3,000 feet above sea level, and the average temperature all year round is 75 Fahrenheit or 23 degrees Celsius. The houses here have no air conditioning and no heating. And, you know, I don't live at the beach. The beach is too hot. It gets up in the daytime and everything. The highest it gets here is around 28, and the lowest it gets is about 18.
Sounds pretty good. So you're not shoveling snow.
No, the only snow you have to shovel down here is, holy crow, the cocaine that's going through this country up into the United States. I think it was 2 or 3 days ago, they busted 750 kilos. It's just incredible. It's, I don't fool with any of that stuff. I drink beer. I call it vitamin D. And down here, it's vitamin C because it's cerveza.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the process like to move down there? Is it difficult to move to Costa Rica?
No, and when you come into the airport, there's no more requirements for vaccine papers and none of that. And you don't have to wear masks. There's still people running around here with masks on, but they've been brainwashed by the media.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still shooting kids up here. People are taking and lining up. And the people that I know 5 people here that have had the shots and kicked off. Yeah. No, it's Biden. Remember, Biden sent down 50 or 500,000 doses of that ivermectin. That was the stuff that, what the hell is his name? He's an English guy. Russell Brand.
Mm-hmm.
They had a bunch that was bad. They put yellow tags on them. Have you seen him do that one? Anyways, I figure that's what they sent down here because I got a family here that have had 4 shots because.
Well, you know what? We're gonna get you're gonna get us banned off YouTube and Facebook. So if you're gonna talk about Kool-Aid and things like that, you need to refer to it more like Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid, yeah.
If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
At any rate, it's really nice. The sun comes up at 6 in the morning and goes down at 6 at night. There's no long days or short days. It's the same all year round. When it gets dark here, man, it's black. We're right in the shade.
Interesting. You must be able to see stars very clearly at night.
Yeah, well, when it's not clouded over, I can see the space station.
That's cool.
Very
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So where are you living?
Well, we're located in a town called Chatham, Ontario. So that would be about an hour from Windsor, Detroit. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not far from the border, but I'm not going over that border. I just don't want to deal with it.
Well, how ridiculous is that? I used to be able to cross the border and they didn't even ask for a driver's license.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Younger people,
At
they
any rate.
they don't know. I used to go back and forth across, and you were supposed to show your driver's license, but more often than not, they would just wave you through. They'd take one look and go, "Go ahead."
I lived in White. Yeah, I lived in White Rock on Zero Avenue for a while. And when there was no lineup at the border, I used to go down and fill my gas tank.
Yeah.
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 No, I mean, it's just everything's gone for, yeah. They don't want us traveling around, and they don't want anybody to hear anything that's against doctors. Ouchie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Terrible.
At any rate, I'm up here feeling good. I still got all my hair and I got all my teeth, and I haven't replaced knees, ankles. I haven't replaced anything, and I played hockey till I was 38 and skied for the next 10 or 12 years, and then I came down here.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Anyway, I love it here. Yeah. Yeah. At this altitude, I'm at 3,000 feet or 1,000 meters above sea level.
Mm-hmm.
And the temperature all year round is average 75 or 23 Celsius.
So if would you recommend other Canadians move to Costa Rica?
I would, but they should get in touch with me. I've driven from Canada here twice, and I've been to Panama, and I know all of the countryside here. I never go out at night. I'm always in the house at 6 o'clock. If you know what to do around here, it's a really nice place. But if you start fooling around at discos and that, they're shooting and they're crazy. There's too much here. It's not as bad as the United States right now, though.
Mm.
And the new president we've got here, he's made it that if you want to take your shot, you can have it. If you don't, you don't have to. And you don't have to wear masks anymore. Yeah, know that he's a very progressive guy. He's a lot like, well, I can't mention his name. They'll cut us off. So we'll call him Donald Duck.
Okay.
Yeah. He's getting rid of all of the insurance companies here that were, and he's changing all kinds of the stuff, and he's given all of these politicians here who've been raping the tax dollars from the people. Oh, he's like the guy from Florida.
DeSantis.
We'll call him Santa Claus.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So more freedom in Costa Rica than in Canada today.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
What a shame.
And they call it a banana republic, but I'm telling you, this new president we got here, he just got in, and he's got a whole pile already. He's getting rid of the insurance company and well, hey, down here in the past, 78 cents on the dollar that went into the medical fund went to administration. 12 cents went into the hospitals.
12 cents.
Yeah, out of the dollar. The rest was all administration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he's straightening all that out. Insurance is very, very reasonable.
When you say insurance, are you talking health insurance?
Oh yeah, health insurance and car insurance, insurance on your belongings. But as you know, if you ever have an insurance claim, it takes months and months to get your money out of it. So it's the same in all the countries. It's bureaucracy holding up the show.
Yeah. So are you missing Canada at all?
Well, not since October. No, I was always a Canadian. My father ran. Well, they wanted to run for Liberal North at East Edmonton, and he went to Ottawa for a week. This was back in the 50s, and he came home, and my mom said, "How did he go, George?" He says, "Well, I don't want any part of it." He said, "They're all a bunch of banditos." Oh, and this was back in the 50s. Yeah. And he never liked NATO. He said NATO was a big waste of money, and he never liked
So he never
the
liked
dehydrated Frenchman, the dehydrated Pierre.
Oh.
The dehydrated Frenchman who
Yeah.
put all of our pension, he put all our pension money into general revenue and spent it in 1976. So now we have an unfunded liability. So they're borrowing money to pay our pensions. And they're borrowed so much, they're double A now. They used to be triple A, and if it drops to A, they won't let them money. And that way we won't get our pension.
Yep, people don't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to, anybody that's listening, if you want to read a good book, it's written by Alex Doulis, and he went to Simon Fraser University, and he wrote a book, Take Your Money and Run. I would suggest that you read that book. There's clauses in there. I read the book and I practiced how to get money and change this stuff. There's 3 or 4 clauses in the book. And I asked my accountant, what's this? He looked it up, couldn't find it. Looked it up on the internet, couldn't find it. I said, phone them. He phoned them, and you know what they said? Who wants to know? I said, hang up the phone. Yeah, this was back in the 80s, about the mid 80s. That book has been out a long time. He went to Simon Fraser University, and he ended up running Merrill Lynch in New York.
Well,
yeah, that's a
people can
good
check
book.
that
That
out.
one, you read that. But I know. Yeah, Alex Doulis, Take Your Money and Run.
So any other final advice
and there's-
for people if they're thinking of leaving Canada and maybe moving out of the country, maybe looking at Costa Rica or Mexico or some other country? What would you, any words of advice on how to do it? Or
Well, Costa Rica is really expensive, but when you go out, you go to dice bars, dice places, there's no problem. But it's like anywhere else. If you go to the wrong places in this country, you're going to have a problem. But I lived in Guanacaste, which is the northern part. I lived on the Caribbean coast and Cahuita. And right now, I like Sarchi because it's at the altitude where the temperature is consistent. Like I say, no houses. The houses here don't have air conditioning, and they don't have any heating. It's always just room temperature. How much better does it get? But if you go down I think it's every 100 meters, the temperature changes 1 degree. It gets hotter as you go down, and it gets colder as you go up. Yeah. Anyway.
Well,
yeah,
listen.
I got a nice little apartment here, and I got a swimming pool that's $350 US a month.
That's pretty good.
How can you beat that? And the people that I rent my apartment from, I've known the guy 30 years when I first came down here, and himself and his wife are like my mom and dad. If I come home late in the morning, she brings me a bowl of chicken soup and
Awesome.
gives me shit for being out late. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you've got a family there. Well, you've got a family
Yeah,
here now too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're part of the
Yeah.
Maverick family now, so I'm glad you called in.
Have you got my telephone number?
I do. I have it on the screen.
It would be on your read.
Yeah, I do. I have it.
Yeah. So you can tell anybody that wants to come down here to give me a call. I'm only like, if there's traffic, it's 45 minutes to the international airport. I'll pick them up at the airport. I've got a car and a truck, and I'll take them around. No problem.
Okay.
In fact, I would enjoy doing it. Yeah.
And what was your first name
And there's
again?
all kinds of places. Richard.
Okay.
My name is Richard Lucien Guedet, and I don't speak French, but my Spanish is all right.
All right. I've got it written down here, so I won't lose it. And if anybody wants to contact you, I will share your phone number with them, if that's okay with you.
No problem at all.
Okay.
No, I would appreciate it. Yeah.
All right. So you guys can email
Mm-hmm.
me, and then I'll get you guys connected if there's anybody that wants to go down to Costa Rica.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
or
very,
even if they want to come down here, they just want to recommend a hotel or wherever they want. I can do that too.
fantastic. That's very generous of you and helpful.
Yeah. Well, I'm an old retired guy. I'm an old retired boilermaker. Yeah.
Well, now you're a.
And I worked in the States, and I worked in the States, and I worked in Canada, and I got 2 boilermaker pensions, one from the States, one from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get my CPP and my old age pension. And I sold my farm here, so I got enough money in the bank to look after myself.
Well,
yeah.
Sounds like you've got it made in the
good.
shade, my man.
Well, I only have one problem now. November, Scotiabank said that they won't deal with me unless I have a Canadian telephone number. So I'm going to have to figure that out before November.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there must be a cheap.
I guess I'll get my daughter.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll get a telephone with one of the places up there, and I've got another telephone here, so I'll have the number anyway. Because my pensions get deposited directly into my bank account.
Right.
Which I've had it when it was Bank of Nova Scotia. I got my first bank account there in 1952. That's how long I've been with Scotiabank. Bank of Nova Scotia, actually.
Interesting. Well, Richard, we're going to move on. We've got calls stacked up, but this was a great call. Very helpful.
Oh, good.
And please call back on another night. I'd love to talk with you again.
Will.
Yeah. This was great.
All right. Well, I'm going to program you in there.
Okay,
in my phone.
Outstanding.
All righty. Toodaloo.
Okay. Toodaloo to you too. And we have Irene on the phone now, and you want to talk about Trudeau?
Hi. Yes. Actually, I don't live very far from you, border city, Sarnia.
Well, hello there, neighbor.
Yeah. Hello, neighbor. I just have I guess I question myself, and I want to share it to your viewers. Why, since the I know I have to kind of be careful with the wording, but it's well known, the wee scandal from JT and his family. That's a well known, common knowledge. Also, right through to the the Ottawa police stating that they never requested the Emergency Act, and now with all this other stuff that he and his government is doing, attacking freedom rather than defending it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my question is to myself, and why hasn't he other politicians gathered their power together to take him down? I question myself that every day for a few years now. Yeah.
Well, I think they've tried. There's a process to be followed. And at the end of the day, people voted for him again. He should have lost. He should have lost his job. He's been able to deflect these scandals.
Yeah.
And and have shield himself from it legally to a point. Because with like the WE scandal stuff and SNC Lavalin and all of those things, it's more about political scandal rather than outright crime. So
right. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Because it's done through companies and
indirectly.
And they do things that are maybe not ethical, but still on the legal side. Right. That's why the ethics commissioner looked at what he did with the WE scandal, and not ethical, but not enough to get him thrown in jail.
Yeah, right. And then, like many other.
At the end of the day, the Canadian people have nobody to blame but themselves. They voted for him again. Why? Because he offered to give them what they thought was a bunch of free money. Free this, free that, free this, free that. And people went, yeah, I'll vote for that. I get free stuff. And now we're just paying for it with inflation and loss of freedom. So nothing's free.
Right. Well, I think the second round of his so-called election, a lot of people went in blind, or should I say it?
Yeah, you're breaking up there on your call a bit. I think we're losing your call.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's a little bit better.
It's just okay. Well, I just wanted to share the. I guess it's more of a frustration, but the question remains: how he is still in power, whether he was revoted or not. It's just that question remains: how is he still, to this day? And I do believe that, well, we all know too, he is a member of the WEF, as is C. Freeland. So I think to relieve my frustration a bit, I say that those powers are what is protecting him. The powers and the protection of the WEF is who is really protecting him. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for listening.
No, thank you. I appreciate the call and good comments. Let's move on. We'll talk with.
Okay.
You have a good night. And Diane is on the line.
Oh, likewise. Okay.
Yeah. Take care. Hi, Diane. How are you? Good.
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm okay. What's on your mind?
I am not going to lie. I was full of glee today watching what went down in Tecumseh, which is, or was, I don't live there anymore, but that's where I was born and raised. And I was very proud of the people there for standing up. And Mayor Baines, who was from Bell River, and McNamara was standing behind Kazmarek, who is the Liberal MP, right?
Yeah.
Is he an MP? Yeah. And then McNamara is the mayor of Tecumseh, and they're just so smug. Their faces, the way the way they just treat people with such disdain, and it is disgraceful. And I was like cheering those people on. I'm like, give it, just keep giving it. I was clapping, and like, I'm glad that people in those situations, and every Liberal candidate now, or politician, and Jagmeet Singh. So there's other people. They can't go out in public anymore because they are now being followed by people who are, not trying to hurt them physically, but people who are voicing their frustrations over, what's done, because I don't think anybody's voted for this. People have not voted. We're not voting on these issues. Their agenda is a runaway agenda. They are following it. They could care less. They really could care less about those people there today, because that is not their agenda. They're on the runaway train with their agenda, and the same with Justin.
I'm with you. You reap what you sow. You reap what you sow.
Yeah.
You treat people poorly like that, don't be surprised when they get upset with you.
The only way we're going to get out of this is in an election. We have to, people have to stand together. People have to vote correctly. People cannot be complacent, because that's what got us here.
Yeah.
That's what got us here. We are all complacent. And I will say that I was too, because I was going about my life, and I have a good life, and Canada's so great, and we have a great healthcare system. And then it's kind of like the SHIT hit the fan, didn't it?
It did. And everyone went, what the heck's going on? Because they weren't looking before. Nobody was looking.
Exactly. And I mean, I think I'm a knowledgeable person. I was always reading. I had, interest in what was happening, but I just was not seeing it. I was really not seeing it. It was actually my son. He's 32 now, and he started watching Jordan Peterson. And then he started coming out with all of this stuff about Canada and everything. And sometimes I was even looking at him thinking, like, where are you even getting this from? But you know what? He was right. He was right. It wasn't conspiracy theories. It was stuff that was really happening that just a good percentage of the population was overlooking.
Yeah.
So
Canada was a miracle. So was the United States. It's not natural. What we had was not natural. I think we had almost probably just about as close to a utopian society as we probably would ever get, maybe, and we just let it slip away. And our forefathers, our grandfathers, they fought for it and gave it to us, and we haven't guarded it. We didn't take care of it. We took it for granted. But we need to be careful right now and make sure that we follow people that want to get us to get the country back, not follow people who want to just finish dismantling it and replace it with something else. I want Canada back. That's what I want.
Exactly. But what happened to Trump, that has only fueled the conservatives, in my opinion, the Republicans.
Yeah.
And that is, if that happens in the midterms and beyond, whether it's DeSantis or Trump, whatever happens, then that is, I've said that before, that is going to help us. And something else I'd like to bring up, because I've heard a lot of people call in. A lot of people are, they're fans of Max Bernier, and he is a very commendable man. And unfortunately, what happened with Andrew Scheer and everything, he really did get railroaded. He did.
Yeah.
But the situation right now, we can't hang on to that. We still have to make good decisions. And a lot of people call in and say, and I hope the people who call in and say this can hear me, that Pierre Poilievre is WEF. One point I'd like to make, because I don't know 100%, I've never seen any proof that he is in anything. But one point that I would like to make is the WEF, when people get elected, and people have been getting elected in Western societies, including Australia, including New Zealand, including our premiers, and so on and so forth. Klaus Schwab, I know, sent books out to everybody and he invites people to Davos. So Harper has been to Davos. Donald Trump has been to Davos a couple times because that's what they do. They invite all the elites, the rich, the powerful, trying to get them to follow their agenda or to listen to what he has to offer.
Yeah.
Premier Jason Kenney, he said when he got elected, I saw him in an interview within the last 4 or 5 months when he got elected, Klaus Schwab sent him a book, the new book, The Great Reset, and sent it to him. And I don't know if he invited him, but Jason Kenney said, go to hell, basically. So I know for a fact that, or maybe, not a fact because I'm not sitting down with these people, but I think that's very plausible. That's how Klaus Schwab infiltrated, look at Australia and look at, what's her name, Jacinda down in New Zealand. Same things going down. So all I'm saying is there's two sides to every story. I'm not saying anything bad about Max Bernier because I do think he has a backbone and he is really for the people. But I don't know without any notoriety if he can attain that position of prime minister. I really don't know. Donald Trump could do it without being in politics all his life, but he was already a celebrity. He already owned, you know what I mean? He was never in politics before.
Well, plus he became basically the leader of the Republican Party, ran under the Republican brand. That makes it a lot easier to get elected. It's not as easy to get elected as an independent or as a new party. And so the PPC is growing, but yeah, you're right. I mean, it's a real uphill battle. And is Max likely to become the prime minister in the next election? Highly unlikely. Highly, highly unlikely. That's the reality. But everything's volatile, so anything is possible. But I hear what you're saying.
I mean, that's just the point I want to make, because we have to be strategic, because we have to get out of this. We have to get out of this.
Yep. Well, that's why I encourage people to join the Conservative Party so that you could have a voice and get to vote for the person you wanted to be leader of the Conservative Party. You can still be a member of the PPC, and then when the election rolls around, you can make your decision at that time. But I'd much rather have Pierre Poilievre as the leader of the Conservative Party than Jean Charest, and have that carried forward into the next election so that you can choose from Pierre Poilievre. And even if you don't vote for him, but maybe he gets elected, I'd rather end up with Pierre Poilievre as prime minister than Jean Charest. So why not get involved in the process and push him in there, or another candidate that reflects your values, like a Leslyn Lewis, or maybe a Roman Baber if you like him. Right? Rather have that than a former Liberal Premier of Quebec posing as a Conservative.
Exactly. And I have to tell you, I love Pierre Poilievre. Like, he's just a more polished politician, right? And the videos that he makes with that are like just but they're just digs to Justin Trudeau. And I laugh at every one of them because they're well done, and they're very humorous. That he can hold his own that way, and he speaks very well. But I'm not saying I idolize him or anything. All I'm saying is this election, this might be the most important election in my life as an adult in Canada. I really think it is. I think it's the most important one.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know how quickly things could disintegrate in 6 or 7 years. Look at what the train wreck that has happened. and our country is torn apart. The people, just the fabric, the people are just torn apart.
Yeah.
Like just everybody is just so opposed to each other, and the politicians don't have a clue, and they don't even, they absolutely do not care.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going forward with, I think there's probably liberal people who voted liberal, and that's fine. I'm accepting of that, but they did not really vote for this agenda, and maybe they don't even realize where this is going.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe they've always voted liberal and they thought that was safe to do, but I don't know if they thought it would get this way, and I don't even know if they're seeing it. Like, do you think that liberals who are not like crazy left people, liberals, you know what I mean? Like just normal middle of the road liberals. Do you think that they're agreeing with this agenda?
I don't know. I can only say that I think that even a few months ago, we were sort of at about 20% of the people were waking up or had awakened. Today, we're probably closer to 30, maybe 40. As we head into the fall, the reason I say that is I don't think the government will have as much success convincing people to take the thing in the arm for their fourth or fifth or sixth boosters. That people are getting tired of it, and you saw that today in Tecumseh.
Yeah.
Right. That's the most vocal. Well, the most vocal organic gathering like that I've seen. That outpouring of anger and emotion just organically. We've seen things like that sort of at political events with politicians getting off a bus with people yelling and stuff, but that's not the same as what happened today. Today, people just knew this announcement was going to happen, and they all went down there, not like a formal organized rally kind of a thing. That was just 100 pissed off people who kind of showed up.
Yeah.
That's what that was. And that's
why
you're
right. Like if you go ahead.
That's why those politicians better pay attention, because that's what that was today. That wasn't a choreographed political attack by some, anti-government group or some political party or anything like that. That was just pissed off people. So
well, you're right, because you're right. That was like that announcement, and the other instances that I was referring to, they were like, Jagmeet Singh was getting into his car and he was leaving a building, and Justin Trudeau, there was one that really French girl from Rebel News, she was just bugging him. He was at a restaurant outside in Montreal, and it was more of those type of things where they were getting heckled. But this was like those people in Tecumseh, they shut down. They just shut that right down. That guy couldn't say anything. That was shut right down.
Mm-hmm.
And like, do you think that if that happens on a regular basis, that eventually somebody will, like one member of the party, 2 members of the party, 10 members of the party will say, hey, we gotta, I mentioned that to you before. That just blows my mind that nobody is saying, hey, things are getting really bad. Maybe we should rethink something. Do you think it will change anything?
I would like to think so. If we were back in the before times, yes. Right now, I'm not sure. It seems like we have this totalitarian government, and when people act like that, the government seems to come in under Trudeau and even the premiers, and they just squeeze harder. And that's why you're seeing, the censorship legislation, the anti-hate legislation, which isn't about anti-hate, it's about control. another tool to use against groups. I don't know.
The one Doug Ford passed, the anti-protest one,
Right.
Several months ago.
Yeah.
As they did it like kind of in the middle of the night sort of thing, and that woman Carrie, what's her Carriol? I don't know how to say her last name. She was the one who started the
Belinda.
New Blue with her husband.
Yeah, Belinda and Jim Carahalios. Yep. With the New Blue
How do you
Party.
say that name?
Carahalios.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carahalios.
Great people.
Yeah.
You know, but see, that's the thing. The government has these new tools in place now. Why? They know the people are pissed off. So they have these tools at their disposal, freezing bank accounts, able to pull people over and take you to jail on just the suspicion that you might shut down infrastructure and through a protest. You don't even have to be doing anything. They can just pull you over and say, I think you're going to go block a bridge. You're coming with me. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's a real thing in this country right now. People, you know, they haven't been doing that to people, but they can. So that's what I mean. Like now you saw what happened today. If that escalates and the government feels threatened, they can direct the cops to go out there. They're not supposed to direct cops, but the cops can. And of course they are. They're influenced at the very least by these politicians. They're going to use these tools. That's why they're there. So again, before times, yeah, those kinds of demonstrations would definitely have an impact. Today, maybe not. I don't know. All we can do is keep on fighting, keep on doing what we're doing, right?
And telling people. And I told somebody the other day, they had a Canadian person who did not know that during the Freedom Convoy that the government froze people's bank accounts who donated $20, $30, $50 to the truckers.
Mm-hmm.
They did not know that happened. And I said, yes, that happened. They went in, they asked the banks complied and froze not only people who they thought were the organizers, but also people who donated like $50, right?
Yep.
And they didn't know that. And I'm like, how could you not know that? But that's part of being complacent and just not thinking that, you know, anything bad could happen here.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't do it to everybody, but they did do it to key people, and they can do it. The tool is still there. Although I will say that the banks, some of those banks have now issued apologies to people for having done it. It's a little late, but you know, they have issued apologies. I don't think they'll be eager to do it again, but the tool is there if they choose to in the future. So
all it's done is made us distrust the institutions that were in our country that I trusted in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I trusted that my bank account was my bank account.
Yep.
I trusted that the government was not trying to destroy the country. I trusted that the court system was set up so that it was done fairly or correctly, even though there were times when I didn't think it was. But now, how I'm going to have I'm not a young person, I'm 60. I'm going to have a really hard time going on from this and trusting my country that I contributed to for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
I contributed to my country. I feel very confident that I did. And I'm going to have a real hard time to get my trust regained.
Yeah, me too.
So on that note, I'm going to let you go and take somebody else's caller. I'm glad you're doing okay. And I'm glad to talk to you. And if you ever see Brendan, tell him I'm thinking of him and praying for him. And I hope I get the opportunity to see him again on your show one day.
Me too. Thank you, Diane.
Okay.
You have a great
You
night.
take care of yourself.
Okay, see you. Bye for
now. Bye-bye now.
Firefly, how are you?
I'm good. How are you today? You look a lot less stressed out.
That's because I knew you were going to call and soothe my soul.
Oh, yeah, right. I'm glad you got some work done on your car. We've been
Finally.
complaining about that for months.
Yeah, I have more to
Right.
do. I have a lot of stuff to do. I have house repairs and all kinds of things, but everyone has burdens in life. That's just the nature of living. So there you go.
It's true. It's true. So yeah, I'm sure you know why I'm calling. The homeless situation into these hotels was a dismal failure out here.
Yeah.
The weekly reports for overdoses surpassed COVID deaths by thousands every week. There were more deaths, and so what it was awful, 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 and that was because the people who filled up the hotels were what we call sort of the fresh homeless, the people who weren't already high, the people who were willing to do and jump through all the hoops that the government told them to jump through. The actual homeless population knew exactly what was going on and refused to go in there, right? Because and then the people who did, because they were forced to, they just became cesspools of violence because they didn't want to be there, and so they just destroyed the place. So it's a shame, and I don't trust this at all. It terrifies me. It absolutely terrifies me how easily people can just be snatched and thrown into a dangerous and scary situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, conservative premiers,
not know how
a lot of conservative premiers met today. Doug Ford met with a number of the premiers from mostly maritime provinces, conservatives, and they were talking about the healthcare system. And, they said things have to change. Status quo's not good enough. They're looking at injecting more privatization into the system, but they're also talking about something that I think we should be concerned about. And that is, in Ontario, at least, could happen in other provinces, taking elderly people out of hospitals and putting them into nursing homes where they maybe don't really want to go, but there's an opening there, and they might not even be in a nursing home in their own home communities. So they're saying that they won't force people, but we all know what voluntary means in Canada these days. It's something to be very concerned about, and certainly, keep an eye on where the government's going with all that. And I think it sort of relates to what you're saying. They're treating the elderly in very much the same way as homeless people, and saying you're just going to go over there, right?
Yep. Yeah.
No choice.
Yeah, that's already happening in BC. No, not at all. And then to boot, the homes are well below standard, even the good ones, right? Even the ones that get paid a lot, they're well below standard. And of course, like my sister works in Guelph in the hospital there, and she said her experience over the last 2 years has been a living hell. Last year they lost more than half their staff to mass I'm leaving, I'm not doing this, right, to I'm not getting that thing in the shoulder. So she's like, people that were there 25, 30 years, and she describes what was happening to the elderly people after taking the first Kool-Aid, and then after several days of being like what happens to them when the units were shut down. Like even without the medicine, even without the typical isolation, when a unit got shut down, it was even worse. They were completely neglected. Staff wouldn't come in because they were afraid, and this was that was early. Eventually they figured it out by making wards and separating things and whatnot. But, she watched people go, and, she'd worked in that hospital for, 4 or 5 years, got to know people that shouldn't have gone. And, she was terrified. So it's very startling what's happening. And, migrant workers have even less rights. And that is staggeringly terrifying. I mean, if I were a migrant worker, I would not come to Canada. then we've got more isolation, and it's almost like travelers aren't coming. Now we're pushing migrant workers out. We're locking up our homeless and addicts. It's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary, right? Like people like me will be next, mentally ill. People like my son, I'm terrified of the day that they say, because he's got a heart condition and he's 8. So I've been refusing. I'm waiting for the day they tell me you don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And that is terrifying.
Listen, Firefly, we better move on because we're just our time is marching. I've got a bunch of calls still stacked up.
No worries. I appreciate.
Oh, thank you.
Get some work done.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, you can come and help me work on my car if you want.
I'm way too far away, but I love cars. So if I did live near, I probably would.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll be thinking of you when I'm laying under there covered in grease. See you.
Take care.
Hi, Pam from BC. How are you?
Hi, I haven't talked to you for a while, but I sure enjoyed last night's show and tonight's show. And hats off to those guys in that town outside of Windsor and all the people there, because that was just amazing.
Yeah. I thought
what they did. I mean, if that could happen in smaller towns all across the country, I think it would really catch on.
I think it was just an outpouring of emotion today. That's all that was. That was not choreographed, pre-planned. That was just people showing up, and they were not happy. So
yeah, everybody had their own concern and their own level of knowledge, but I think this WEF thing is very serious. And I remember when the plague came out, the last plague. I was looking on the CDC website, and they had under a section of it, they had a thing called sheltering, and it was all about isolating people and putting them into these type of shelters.
Mm-hmm.
They called it shielding. And it's right on the CDC website. And I remember about 2016 15, I was watching. I just had a smart TV and I was live streaming, and this stuff came through, and it showed all sorts of trains and showing what looked to be like black plastic coffins, and then that led to a guy who owned farmland, and he was asked to store these, and there were thousands of them, and they would have fit three bodies, and so it is kind of nerve-wracking on what these plans are. And I went to Dachau. I used to be in the forces, and I went to Dachau in Germany, and that was originally built for political prisoners, and it was built just before Auschwitz, and that was the first camp that they opened, and it was for reporters and political prisoners that didn't agree with the Nazi Party.
History has a way of repeating itself, I suppose, right?
Yeah, it sure does. But I just wanted to say hats off to you for doing all your shows. And I watched another interesting video this morning, and it was called Pouvier, or I can never say his last name right. Anyways, and he said he was, hi, I'm having coffee with Justin. And I don't know if you saw that, but it was just brilliant.
I saw it. Yeah.
So I don't know where this inflation's going, but and what's going to hit this winter, but I think people are getting pretty conditioned to all these mini crises that they're dumping on us.
Yeah. Well,
but you're getting serious.
Pierre's very good at making videos. If he is elected and becomes prime minister, I hope he's half as good at being prime minister as he is at his social media appearances.
Yeah. Well, you know, a lot of people say things just to get elected, and then they don't carry through with whatever they said in the first place. So I think that's where a lot of the frustrations appear right now.
Yeah. But you know, his political opponents, they absolutely want to paint him with that WEF brush. I've seen even emails during the leadership campaign come from Leslyn Lewis, who is pretty conservative within the conservative ranks there. And even she has sort of alluded to it, you know, to try to erode his support. So I don't know how much weight to give those accusations. I don't know how much of it might, I don't know if it's true or not.
Well, I think there was a website I remember looking at it, and it did have a lot of people that went to this young globalist training, like even Ivanka Trump. So, you know, a lot of people maybe went to it, but they found out what it was about, and then they just said, no way, you know. So you don't know where they stand.
Well, he says that he's not part of it. He says that he wouldn't let his cabinet members, I think he said that he wouldn't allow them to be part of it. So I don't know.
I think I saw his picture on the site, though.
No, that's his thing that's going around. People keep sending that same thing to me. That was a website that was not the WEF website. It was a different site that had names listed, and they said all these people are members of the WEF. And then they had his picture on there and said he was on the website, but they took him down because he's running for the leadership. So they took him off the website in advance. But that's not a picture of him on the WEF site. That's a picture of him on that website, saying that he was on the other website.
Yeah.
But I've never seen a picture of him on the actual WEF website. That thing going around, that is, it's misleading people, whether it's intentional or not. That's how people are interpreting it, but it's not accurate.
Right. I wondered too, because, you know, anybody could duplicate a website or come up with a website to spoof as another website, right?
Yeah, I've seen no evidence to prove the claim that he is or was part of the WEF. No proof, only accusations.
Yeah, yeah. And accusations and gossip can destroy a person pretty quickly, especially if they're unfounded and people just believe them.
Yep. So that's
without checking.
That's all I know.
I know. I think we're all in this. It happens to all of us, you know. Yeah. People come up and they get jealous of you, and they just malign you whatever way they can, just to make themselves look better, right? So.
That's right.
Oh, anyways, I just didn't want to keep you too long, but I'd love to. Also, you can give my number to. Well, actually, probably give me his number. The guy in Costa Rica, Richard, because I don't answer calls that I don't know ahead of time, like on my phone, because I got a lot of junk calls. Okay. So you can give him my number.
Okay, I'll take.
Can you see my number?
I can. I think the best thing for you to do is to email me, and then I'll email you his number.
Okay.
I don't want to just put it up on the screen here. I don't want to do that. So
yeah.
But I'll put my.
So how would I find your email? Just go to freedomsreporters.com.
If you go to mavericknews.ca, you can send messages there. There's a contact page there, and just email through that.
Sounds great.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for letting me on, and good luck. And like I said, you're just doing a fantastic job of covering things that a lot of the stations or no one else is covering.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I have some good people around me who send me links all day and make sure that I'm kept abreast of, the truly important stories out there. Lori and, Brendan and Gina and Scott and Ian and just the list goes on. And I'm sure, I can't even think of everybody, but just a lot of people and viewers. as well.
Yeah.
And I don't want to even name names of people that have been coming to see me. People have been driving all the way down here to come and visit with me just to bring me stories and ideas and information. So it's been quite good.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. So we'll move on, and we're going to
Okay.
talk to Bruce next. How are you, Bruce? Are you there, Bruce?
Yes, I am.
How are you tonight?
How you doing?
Great. What's up?
Okay, I just want to talk about Tecumseh. I'm not going to waste a lot of your time here. And
Yep.
I was there in Tecumseh. It was just a random thing. I popped in,
Mhm.
and the way they treated us people, they don't care about the Canadian people at all. It was a disgrace the way the politicians talked to us. And all I got to say is the Canadian people need to stand up. We got 27 First Nations that still don't have drinking water. So they need to go to www.thepowershift.ca and sign up and sign that petition so that we can take our country back with the Indians, and let's stand with the Indian natives like we used to back in the old days. And about your car, I'm a damn good mechanic and body man.
Okay.
And I'm not working. Oops. I don't mean to swear.
Okay.
So,
I do
but I'm
most of my
unemployed
own
right
work,
now.
so appreciate it.
Oh, okay. Well, but anyways, I'm unemployed. I've been a truck driver for 33 years. But the way we're treated, this ain't working. The government don't care. So we need to go to that website. We need to stand behind our Indian people here, our First Nation, and back them, and they'll back us like the old days. I was born in the Vietnam era, so I know what it's like to see communism. I wasn't in Vietnam, but I know what it's like. But that's all I got to say.
Okay, sir.
And thanks for doing what you're doing.
I appreciate you
And
calling
have a
in
good-
and sharing your experience today with us.
Yeah, I wasn't real happy about the way they were talking, and they just cut us off like we were nothing. They didn't care.
That much was
And people
evident.
need-
You could see that.
Yes, and people need to realize what's really going on in this country, and this credit stuff that they're talking about. That's all coming. This credit score, this, yeah, it's all coming. But you have a good night, and let the other callers go through.
Okay,
And
thank you,
very
Bruce.
much.
Great to talk to you. And
night.
hello, John. How are you?
Good evening, Rick. I just wanted to talk about the money situation and the banks and everything.
Okay.
I think that if the government wanted the banks to shut people down again, if there's like another protest, they're gonna do it in a heartbeat. They're gonna follow the politicians. I watched a couple of videos. It's I think there's three things that you really should be into. I've taken my money out of the banks and I went to a credit union. So the credit union, you have shares there. You have some say. Not the banks. You don't have a say. Your money's in there. Leave it in there. They make money off it, using it here or there. The other thing is, I've been thinking about the silver and gold. I think that's a great idea. I don't know too much about Bitchute and all the rest of the other things.
Oh, you mean
I think they're
Bitcoin?
too risky.
Bitcoin, yeah.
Bitcoin, sorry. So Bitchute, yeah. So I really think that people should really consider. I don't work at. I'm just telling you, I'm retired, and I don't work at any, and I don't have anybody that works at the local banks and things like that. But I think my money is a lot safer at the credit union. And I've seen some videos on it because you have those shares, right? You like to get in, to buy into. I think it's like $50, and that's $50 with the shares. So I don't know what's your opinion on that, Rick.
I think you're
In
right.
regards-
I don't have an account at a credit union, but that's because my wife works for a bank. Right?
Oh, okay.
But if she didn't, I probably would.
Mm,
I don't have much
Yeah.
say in those kinds of matters around here, given that my wife is a banker.
and how about the gold and silver? Do you back that too? The
I'm
gold and
sorry,
silver.
do I back it? In what do you mean?
Yeah. Well, like, do you believe in the gold and silver?
Oh, gold and
Like,
silver. Yeah,
as-
I mean, you can't go wrong with gold and silver. It's been around for thousands of years as currency,
Yeah.
right? So that's a
Right.
real thing. There's no denying that.
Yeah.
That's worth something
Exactly.
always, even when the government collapses and there is no Canadian or US dollar anymore, there's still gold and silver and always will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing I just want to say quickly, I'm so proud of the people in Tecumseh. I used to live in Tecumseh when I worked for one of the big three back in the day. And I was so proud of those people. And, the government will just do what they'll do is try to, do something with CTV. You see that big guy there, he was at CTV. He was asking people, where are you from and stuff like that. And I think one guy, I think he shouldn't have did that. He said where he was from. And, they took it inside. I mean, they can, Rick, you were with CBC for 25 years. You can't tell me that they can't take that film, that guy from CTV who was doing it, and take it back and edit it the way they want it. They'll make those people that were in Tecumseh, they'll make them look like they're, right-wing conspiracy people.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen there. They're going to label them that way. But at least with your show, because CTV is not going to show the truth. Your show does that. It shows the truth, right?
Yeah.
Because you play the original video. So if everybody shares it out, it'll get to everybody, and they'll say, these people aren't crazy. They just had enough.
Well,
I mean,
you know what? I'm looking at, I can't bring it up on the screen and still talk to you at the same time, but there is a report
Yeah.
here from CBC. I actually personally know
Yeah.
the reporter who did the story. I've known him for many, 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 many years. I actually used to work with him. So I hadn't looked until
Good.
just now. The headline is Protesters Interrupt Federal Announcement on COVID-19 Migrant Worker Isolation Site. Ottawa setting $4.2 million aside to keep hotel isolation site in Windsor running for migrant workers. Dozens of protesters shouted over politicians at a news conference in southwestern Ontario about the continued funding of a safe, voluntary COVID-19 isolation center specifically for migrant workers. The announcement was initially made at the front entrance of Tecumseh Town Hall, but protesters repeatedly interrupted Windsor-Tecumseh MP Eirik Kazmierczak, I can't pronounce his last name, Kazmierczak, during his speech.
Right.
The protesters shouted obscenities and false information about the COVID-19 pandemic while asking what funding would be set aside for them, blah, 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 blah. I'm not surprised.
It's already out there.
Yep.
It's already out there.
Yeah, so that's the way he chose to report it.
So, Rick, here's a question I want to ask before I leave. How many migrants come over from different countries into the Tecumseh and Essex? I thought there's a lot of greenhouses around there. And so they come over. Can't they make sure that these people are well and they're not sick before they come?
You would think so.
And why are they getting special outlets to go to? And if we get sick or you get sick, you got to go to the hospital. Why are they putting him in quarantine camps? Tell me.
I don't know. I'm not the government, man.
No, I know,
I
but
know,
Rick,
I
but
just-
I mean,
The whole
yeah.
thing, I
But look
wouldn't-
at it logically. Look at it logically. They're spending 4.2 million, and then they said something about 28 million for quarantine camps.
Yep.
And they're trying to say on the cover, it's because of the migrants coming in to work in the wintertime in our country.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, all that money,
So
that's on top of what they've already
ludicrous.
spent, which is $181 million across Canada so far. And this is new money. And there's more coming. Like the 28 million is the new money Canada-wide, 4.2 million just in this community to keep it going until March of 2023, I believe was the date. And then we'll see what
Wow.
happens after that. There's probably more to come after that.
And our deficit goes up. How many billions is it going to go up? And this is like something that is going to be passed on to our grandchildren and our children. This deficit that he keeps on propping it up and up and up and up. It's billions now. I don't even know what the true number is.
It's
no, that's all I got to say.
I personally don't see any way out of this. They've spent so much
I
money
don't
over
know.
the years.
I don't know how I don't know how we're going to get rid of this guy. How are we going to? Nothing will stick to him.
It will
Nothing will
eventually.
stick.
Eventually, it might be getting there.
Yeah. Yes,
Every
okay, Rick.
politician has an expiry date.
Oh yes, exactly. But it's not going to come soon enough for JG.
Yeah, but like I said the other night, sometimes we all sit around and think change will never come, and then when it comes very quickly. So
yes,
be patient.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time, Rick.
Take care, sir.
Good night now.
We have Velma on the line. How are you tonight?
I'm not doing too bad. How you doing, Rick?
I'm okay. What's up?
I just want to say thank you for all the amazing work that you do. I'm actually here in BC, British Columbia, and I'm very optimistic. I actually see a lot more people waking up, especially young people. Not so much my own family, unfortunately, but I mean, every time I go to the grocery store or anywhere, I'll look at the grocery bill and I'll say, "Thank you, Mr. Trudeau." And then I start a conversation up, and it's amazing how many people, between 20 and 35 are actually awake. So I am really, truly believing that I think there's about 70, 75% of the population that are actually starting to wake up because it's really hitting them home.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really believing this. And there are some Native Indian groups that are trying to get their own identity and their own unity. And I'm not involved in this one, but I definitely want to get involved. It's called the People of the Salmon, and they're having a barbecue the end of the month. They're having a barbecue out in Chilliwack, BC, to invite people out to maybe become a member. Because way back when they did sign a treaty with I can't remember how long ago the actual government signed this treaty. Mm-hmm. So they are their own entity. So they're looking at that type of process right now, and they want to get more people involved in that. And so there are a number of groups federally and provincially around that I think are starting to unite. There's the National Assembly group. There's the Universal Community Trust group. So there's a lot of them out there. And I think if we can continue to unite and bring the people together, I have hope, because each one of these groups, they have different information. And if you can navigate through that, and with your program and the Shadow Davis program, and there's other programs out there that do touch on those subject matters. So I think it's helping a lot of people, and I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you for watching. Thank you for calling in. I appreciate your
So
support.
I don't want to take any more time up, but I'm not going to be very negative because I see, especially in BC, where I think we've been the hardest hit with Miss Bonnie Henry's, shutdown. I mean, I was a healthcare worker, and unfortunately, I did get the jab the last minute. I got it in December, very last. I lost time out of work for that. I spoke my views. And there are codes that you can look at. Whatever the jab you got, if it ends with a 0,
Oh, wait,
it's
careful.
more than
We don't get it banned. Be careful. how you
Sorry.
say it.
Anyway, sorry about that. Look at the number, and it will determine whether it was a real vaccine, real jab or not, because they didn't have the amounts ready to give to this many people at the time. So just ask people. There are sites you can go to determine that.
Yeah, just I know we're on YouTube and Facebook, and they just
Yes, absolutely. I've been censored on YouTube saying that my stuff is nonsense at time too, but I just wanted to give a shout out to everybody, and please just stay strong. Don't believe all the BS that's out there, and let's just start talking to everybody in the grocery store. That's the first place to go. When you're out in the crowd, just talk. I think we need to be sharing a lot more love and not so much hatred towards everybody, because we really don't know the backgrounds and where they came from and why they are behaving the way they're behaving, right? And I think that's just going to unite people.
All right. Thank you for the call.
Thank you very much, Rick, for everything that you do. And my shout out to Brandon also. And Lori. Thank you.
See you. Have a good night.
You too.
And who do we have on the line here now?
Yes. Hello there. It's Will again.
Hi.
Hi. Okay. So I don't want to keep you too long. The thing I wanted to mention last night as well was that in March 16th, between the 16th and 23rd of 2020, JT, the guy here with the loose limbic system, losing control, he went and put a bid out for security companies to manage and contractors to build these despicable places. In back at that time, he started putting bids out. I got this news quite some time back from Mr. Levant on the other channel, and so that's what I wanted to cover there.
Okay.
And so this has been in the works. So these guys with their smirks on today in Tecumseh, I think they know things. They have things planned. They think that they are going to succeed. However, I think the crisis in Europe, in Germany and France, are going to be. It's just going to be too much, and I think maybe there will be some type of crisis where the news is going to have to open up and show the truth, because of the positivity of what this lady just said now. And the first caller that called in, she had something to say about the powers. Okay. I also wanted to mention that, to my shock and dismay, there was a 2019 leadership campaign video made with a minister from the Harper government. I can see his face, but I can't mention his name. I can't remember his name. He had an interview with Polyev, and Polyev was very sympathetic to the Trans-Pacific trade agreements. And if he seems to be, that way with the the Trans-Pacific partnership and all this stuff, you're giving your sovereignty anyway over to another group of countries. They're going to tell you, if you want to think back for a moment, think back about how Freeland fell on her knees and started to bawl and cry when one small county in Belgium said no to Canadian cheese. One small, tiny little fraction county, no larger than Pontiac, Gatineau, Labelle on the other side of the province, the other side of the Quebec border from here. Just smaller than that even. Just the size of maybe Carleton or Connecticut Carleton. You know, like I'm next to Polyhouse. I'm his next door neighbor. A small place like that, and the whole cheese industry couldn't ship anything to Europe because of that one small county. If you can think back about that in 2015, then, you know, and Freeland had this big crying rant. Well, that's because of these types of trade agreements are against the sovereignty of the nation. So, I mean, it's kind of she was a crying sort of a contradiction. And so, you know, I don't want to talk too much like Chris Christopherson here, but just a sort of a walking contradiction. So there you go. And I just wanted to mention that. So this bid's been out ever since 2020.
Right.
So they're thinking ahead. These people are thinking, and the first caller, when she called in, she mentioned about powers coming from, and this kind of attraction that this old white man in Europe seems to have against all of us. You know, that's what I wanted to bring up. So anyway, yeah, if you do say hello to Brandon from me too. And hopefully Lori's feeling great and she's going to get over this in time. So I want to bid you a good evening.
Okay.
And thank you very much. I wanted to bring that up. That's been ever since the outbreak happened. Then they brought this thing in for, you know, for this kind of thing, like for, I don't know, for detention centers. Kind of worries me too. So you have a great night.
Okay, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. God bless. Bye-bye.
And there you go. So 9:44 p.m. That's where we're at. It's been a busy day. And that was one heck of a display of patriotic emotion in the town of Tecumseh, just outside Windsor today. We could really use your help, your support. You can donate at freedomreporters.com. Every little bit helps. Sure would appreciate any assistance you can provide. We're not going to sign off right now, though. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to check in with James Top. So we'll do that before we sign off. Let me just get that queued up. We'll take a very brief break. And when we come back, we'll update you on what James is doing today. Stay with us.
Fighting the Great Reset by leading the Great Resistance. Maverick News. The antivirus programs for your mind.
Okay, hang on. Not quite there. Having a little trouble finding his feed. So stay with us. Almost ready.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
So there's a meet and greet going on in Prince Edward Island tonight with James Topp. So just give me just a moment here. We can bring some of this up. I just don't know if the feed's very good, folks. It seems like we'll just bring it up here briefly, show you what he's up to tonight. So here we go. James, of course, is on phase 2 of his march across Canada, fighting for freedom, trying to promote unity. Here he is.
Implementation of this system. And also, I am speaking on behalf of my fellow service members because I am still a service member. Please understand that. And I will talk a little bit about the repercussions of my initial announcement shortly. However, I am speaking on behalf of all of those, not just in the armed forces. I'm speaking on behalf of those in public services, police services, firefighters, paramedics, and everybody else who was forced to take part in a system where they were required to have an injection of an experimental product so they could draw a paycheck. I'm speaking on their behalf because a lot of them are not happy. So that's that. So between July the 1st and the 17th, we planned, we prepared, we coordinated. Some team members had to go home, some team members came in, and we decided we were going to include the Maritimes and Eastern Canada in this march because a lot of folks have made a desire for us to come here, and I'm really happy that we did that. It's been an amazing experience. For me, I have only had limited exposure to places like Newfoundland. This is my first time ever in Prince Edward Island. Thank you for the warm welcome. Thank you for meeting me, and thank you. I'll talk to Laura and Patrick about getting me a ride across the ocean so I can come here. So very happy that we decided to resume this march on July the 18th at Signal Hill in St. John, Newfoundland. So the overall time frame we're looking at here is between now, well, July the 18th is when we resume the march. We have since crossed Newfoundland, distance of about 1,000 kilometers. Well, by now it's at least 1,000 kilometers from the time we started in July the 18th. So add that to the initial 4,300, and that brings us up to over 5,000 kilometers so far, having marched for this purpose. And the purpose of this next phase is to, like I alluded to earlier, federal government workers have been called back to work on June the 20th. Armed Forces members, one of which I was talking to earlier this evening, were released on what is called an item code 5N. So for those of you who are not aware of what that means, that is unsuitable for further service due to our unwillingness or inability to change a behavior. And so the behavior that we displayed was standing up for ourselves and not succumbing or participating in the Chief of Defense Staff Directive on vaccination. So for that reason, there are a number of us. Mine is ongoing. I just talked to a gentleman earlier today who had been released on a 5F. So in order to clarify, this is something that gets attached to your service record. You are not allowed to re-enroll in the armed forces on a 5F. You are stamped with this service record despite having had an exemplary career. there are hundreds, if not thousands, of members having faced this in the Canadian Armed Forces. This is one of the reasons why we continue to do this. Furthermore, when I had gone to announce my meeting with members of Parliament, I also said, this is not about me going in to speak with you and bang on the table. This is me trying to bring to you some kind of solutions to the problems that we face here in this country right now. So between now and the first week of November, our goal is to attain another meeting with one of the four, or all of the following people. The Department of National Defense Ombudsman, who acts as a third-party conflict resolution service for members who feel that have been treated unjustly in the Canadian Armed Forces. We would also like to speak to the Minister of National Defense. We would like to speak to the Chief of Defense Staff. And if at all possible, we would like to speak to the Prime Minister on these issues. So,
this powerful $99 drone is now available in Canada.
Well, we're dumping out of that. It is now almost 10 p.m. Appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Hang on just a moment while I get that audio from playing in my ears. Again, great broadcast tonight, great show. I think great calls coming in and a great display of passion. Passion and a thirst for freedom in the town of Tecumseh outside of Windsor, Ontario today. With that being said, donations at freedomreporters.com. Sure appreciate any support you can provide. If you haven't so far, please make sure you like the video. That helps us a great deal. Could use a lot more likes, honestly. That would really help the channel a lot. We had huge numbers across the board tonight on all of the different platforms, with the exception of Rumble, where we were having technical problems. Don't know why, but they'll be ironed out for tomorrow, I'm sure. If you haven't subscribed over there, please do so. If you haven't subscribed here, please do that too. And we will be back tomorrow night, same time, same station, right here on the Maverick News channel, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.
And every time we talk about what's happening in Taiwan and China's moves, we ask this question: will China be able to sustain a war? Can they afford a war? And there are serious doubts. China might not be in a position to fund an invasion at this point because their economy is struggling. The Wuhan virus and zero COVID have brought economic activity to a grinding halt. The crisis in the property sector has dealt the economy a body blow, and now natural disasters, or disasters that appear natural but are indeed man-made, are breaking the back of Chinese economy. Earlier this week, Beijing made an admission. It said the situation is not looking good.
Overall, the international environment became more complex and severe in July, with the world economic recovery slowing down and global inflationary pressures remaining high. The domestic epidemic is spreading from various points and is frequent in many places, combined with high temperatures and rain, making it more difficult to keep the economy running smoothly.
Investors are now wary of investing in China. Leading banks have cut their growth forecast. American bank Goldman Sachs had earlier projected that China will grow at 3.3%. It has now lowered that forecast to 3%. Numbers from Japanese investment firm Nomura are worse. It predicts that China will grow at 2.8%. These numbers are nowhere close to China's own projections. China had set a growth target of around 5.5% this year. Forget about growth. Beijing is looking at a recession now. In the month of July, the Chinese economy started to shrink. It contracted by 2.6%. And it's getting worse. Because for the first time in 9 years, China has issued a drought alert, a countrywide drought warning. The numbers are alarming. 830,000 people are struggling to get water. They're spread across 6 provinces. More than 300,000 people are unable to get a steady supply of drinking water in China. That's because rivers are drying up. The pictures speak for themselves. Take a look at this. These pictures are of the Jialing River. It's a tributary of the Yangtze. The Yangtze is the longest river in Asia. Right now, it is drying. An intense heat wave is sweeping China, which is why rivers are losing their water. The water level of the Yangtze is at a record low, and the locals are worried.
We cannot live through this summer without air conditioning. The water used to reach the riverbank, but see now, it's retreated to where it used to be, the middle of the river. Without air conditioning, we can only be left to rot. Nothing else can cool us down. Even air conditioning cannot fully cool us down. At 1 or 2 p.m., even if we adjust the air conditioning to the lowest 16 degrees Celsius, the indoor temperature is still above 30 degrees Celsius. The surface temperature now feels at least 60 degrees.
And that's the other concern. Losing water supplies is one thing, but the drought has affected China's hydropower stations. They're unable to produce electricity. How many stations are affected? About half of them across China. They've been forced to stop work. So China has been forced to ration electricity. Power cuts have been ordered. The province of Sichuan is resorting to some extreme measures. Outdoor advertisements, subway lighting, and building name signs have all been switched off. Factories in Sichuan are already shut. Local officials had ordered a shutdown for 6 days because of power shortage. China is now struggling to keep its factories working. Manufacturers have started to complain. Car maker Tesla and SAIC have issued warnings. They've told the Chinese government that they're facing difficulties. They cannot keep up with their production targets. These car makers have demanded exceptions. They want power supply to keep their factories running. Chinese officials have relented in this case, but not everyone is this lucky. Toyota, another car maker, has closed its plants. And electronics manufacturer Panasonic has halted production at a plant. The people of Sichuan are upset. They've taken to social media to slam Chinese officials. I have some comments with me. This is what one user said. The lives of people in Sichuan seem less important than Tesla. Here's another one. It is just too much. We are in desperate need of electricity. 13 people were hospitalized yesterday out of a heat stroke. This could just be the beginning. China's heat wave could get worse in the coming days. We'll keep track. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.
Properties change all the time, and as Ontario's property experts, it's our job to keep information about them up to date. We do this so that property tax distributed by your local government are determined on a fair, consistent basis. If you spot an MPAC expert in your neighborhood, we might be there for a property inspection. Inspections happen for different reasons, such as if you've taken out a building permit after a recent property sale, or if you file a request for reconsideration or appeal your assessment. Whatever the reason, they always help us make sure our assessments reflect the property's current state. During an inspection, we look at several aspects of the property. We verify and update details for the structures on the property, including pools, garages, and sheds, plus we confirm the lot information. We may also ask to confirm details about the inside of your home. As we work, we often take photos for reference too. Remember, as MPAC property inspectors, we always identify ourselves, explain our purpose before we get started. If you're not available, our inspectors will leave a door hanger to let you know we were there and why. and if there is any further action required. Check out mpact.ca to learn more about what we do.
Biden's border crisis causing a free-for-all in America's largest liberal city. Hundreds of illegal immigrants lining up outside a New York City hospital, bused there by Texas Governor Greg Abbott. The city offering migrants free phones, food, health care, and many are being put up in $400 a night luxury hotels. Now, these great perks coming, of course, courtesy of the American taxpayer. The New York Post summing it up as, quote, land of the free. But what about the American citizens who are already here? Do they get a handout as well? Nope. Rent prices have been exploding all across the country. One person forced to pay nearly $20,000 just in order to secure a one-bedroom apartment. So, Joey, I'm going to start with you. You hear all these handouts. What's the message to America's homeless veterans or families who are struggling? And I mentioned this as well, when this whole border stuff started heating up under Joe Biden, and I heard they were putting illegal migrants inside of barracks, I thought, well, why haven't we been doing that with homeless veterans? So what's the message to the American people when they see this?
Well, it's called, I don't personally equate those two things because I think they're two problems with two different root issues. It's easy, though, to look at that and say, where are your priorities, government? I would say that the Democrat Party would love to have veterans on their dime as well, so that they can be pacified and bring their votes in as well. They love any class of Americans they can put into a position where they need the government to make ends meet. With illegal immigrants, though, and that is the root cause of this issue. This problem is so old news that I laugh at it. I mean, I grew up in a town in the 90s where this was a problem. My grandfather worked next to an illegal immigrant every day for 7 years. That illegal immigrant paid $1 in taxes. My grandfather paid a lot more. When the government caught up to him, he left. He came back 6 months later under a different name and social security number, continued to do the same thing. And that happened over and over again. The infrastructure for fraudulent identities in this country is a problem. And it's something that the government knows about. It's something that in some ways both partisan sides are complicit in, because in the 90s, it was great to have all that cheap labor. Well, now it's a little bit harder to do that, and so everybody's gotten more creative. But the immigration problem starts and ends with a government so dysfunctional that it can't do what most Americans are asking it to do, which is to reform immigration and have a policy that makes sense. And I go back and I beat this dead horse, and that's okay because dead horses don't feel anything. I beat this dead horse. Nancy Pelosi had a deal with President Trump to fund the wall and in return get a codified DACA and reforms in visa applications, something the Democrats wanted. She didn't take it because she couldn't give President Trump the win, and she knew she might have a chance at winning in the courts, which she did on DACA. So when you talk about doing what's best for the people, that's always going to come second for what's best for partisan politics, especially for those like Nancy that are in power. And that's where we are.
So, Jesse, Joey talks about the politics of it. There's also a lot of money in all of this illegal immigration. There are NGOs, Catholic charities, Lutheran charities, other NGOs that are making a lot of money. These hotels are making a lot of money.